Chapter 1365. After leaving Seagate, Orf Colby personally walked Qin Zhao to the door. Qin Zhao liked Seagate yachts, but if they couldn't come up with a design that satisfied him, he might change companies. Therefore, before signing the contract, Orf Colby had to serve Qin Zhao like a grandson. After leaving Seagate, Qin Zhao picked up his phone and dialed another number. "Hey, Mr. Francis, are you free now?" "Of course. Where should we meet?" "The outdoor cafe on North Street." "I'll be there in half an hour." Qin Zhao sat in the outdoor cafe. A while later, a man with messy hair sat before Qin Zhao. "Hi, you're Mr. Qin, right? I'm Francis Paco." "Hi, Francis." Qin Zhao shook hands with Francis. "I heard from Rasfa that you have a wide range of businesses, right?" "I do most of them." Francis scratched his already messy hair. There were oil stains on his suit, and he probably hadn't shaved for a few days. Francis seemed to notice Qin Zhao's gaze and grinned. "You think I don't care about my appearance? Are you doubting my abilities?" It seemed that it wasn't his first time in such a situation. He wasn't surprised by Qin Zhao's scrutinizing gaze. Qin Zhao tilted his head. He didn't doubt Francis's abilities, but he had bad breath. "Let's get to the point," Qin Zhao said. "Here's his information. Help me investigate the woman he's been seeing recently. The more detailed, the better. Here's a deposit of $10,000. If you can find something that satisfies me, I'll give you another $20,000. Qin Zhao said, "I have a subordinate. He might have been tricked. Here's his information." "Mr. Qin, you're wrong. My price might not be $30,000. Francis reached for the $10,000 bag. Qin Zhao suddenly pressed down on the bag. "Fine, tell me how much." Francis pulled twice but didn't move the bag. "It depends on the difficulty of the target. If it's a Hollywood star, it's not just $20,000. Since you don't think it's enough, our cooperation ends here. I'll find someone else," Qin Zhao said indifferently. At the same time, he took back the bag with the money. "This coffee is on me. Goodbye." "Don't. Wait." Francis clearly needed money. Seeing how Qin Zhao gave money so easily, he thought that he could put on airs and ask for more. In the end, Qin Zhao didn't fall for it at all. He just turned around and left. Francis hurriedly pulled Qin Zhao back. I was joking. I'm very satisfied with this reward. Not just a Hollywood star. Even if you want me to investigate the person in the White House, I'll do it for you." Qin Zhao nodded. "Oh, then help me investigate the one in the White House." Don't joke around, Mr. Qin. I'll try my best to find out what you want." Francis looked at Qin Zhao seriously. "Then I'll wait for your good news." "That deposit." Qin Zhao took out the money bag again and tossed it before Francis. "Goodbye." Just then, Qin Zhao received another call from Rasfa. "Qin, come to my house for a drink." "Oh, I'm out of beer." "Bring some over." "Fuck, that beer is a trial product. We only made one batch. It'll be a while before it's officially produced." "Where do you want me to get beer now?" "I don't have any." Qin Zhao had so many friends. 2 boxes for one person, 2 boxes for another person, and a few dozen boxes from the headquarters of the association. They were long gone. Unless Qin Zhao had the beer factory open the production line now. But was that possible? The first batch was to check if there were any problems with the production line, as well as the taste and so on. "Are there only 3 boxes of beer in your trial product?" "No, there are a few hundred boxes. Most of them are used for promotion." "Then bring some more of that meat," Rasfa said greedily. "I'm out of that meat too. I still have some octopus fish. Do you want some?" Okay. Octopus is fine too." "Qin, where did you get your supply from?" Rasfa asked, unwilling to give up. "I can't tell you. I can't break the rule." Qin Zhao first went home and changed his truck. Then he chose some ingredients. However, the ingredients he chose were the kind that couldn't be seen clearly. For example, octopus. Qin Zhao would only cut off a portion. Those who didn't know would only think that the octopus was huge. Chun Zhao still had an even better ingredient, the undying bird. However, Chun Zhao didn't share it. Only the people of the association had eaten it. The undying bird could increase some magic power and physical fitness. It also had super high magic power, so it tasted better than regular magical creatures after cooking. Jerlin and Feilai both really liked the thick soup made from the undying bird's bones. Chun Zhao arrived at Raspa's manor. Stephen was there too. "Stephen, you're here again. Aren't you supposed to be in the studio?" Chun Zhao remembered that before Stephen's last movie was released, Stephen had spent half a month editing the movie without sleep or rest. "I have plenty of time now. I don't have to rush at all." Stephen was very relaxed. "By the way, Stephen, the first trailer has been released." "The response isn't that great," Raspa said. "We're still talking about the theaters." "I don't care. That's your problem. We can't take less than 65% of the box office. That's hard. The theaters keep saying that it's not produced by the Big Six, so they insist on taking 40% of the box office." 40% of the box office? Those vampires. I definitely won't agree. It's my work. Isn't my name worth 65%? They think that your new movie has a similar theme to Furious Sea Police, so they think that you're relying on your past and won't be as successful as Furious Sea Police. Then they'll wait and see. Stephen yelled angrily. However, Stephen also knew that the theaters were the end of the movie industry. If they fell out, it wouldn't benefit anyone. "There's no rush," Raspa said. "The release date isn't set yet. Plus, for countries, distribution companies have contacted PLM, wanting to import your movie. If they can't," Stephen said, "then we'll release it overseas first." Chapter 1366. The three ate as much as they could today. They didn't even drink much. It wasn't that Raspa's family didn't have good wine. There were still a few bottles of purple brew in the cellar. However, Raspa couldn't bear to take them out. He wasn't used to other wines either. Stephen's mouth was sore from all the talking, but he still didn't let Raspa take out the purple brew no matter how he mocked him. Stephen and Raspa mostly talked about the new movie. Chun Zhao would occasionally add a sentence, but most of the time he couldn't. Otherwise, they would talk about which female star was pretty and who had done some shady deals. Only then did Chun Zhao realize that these two were really gossipy. "Rebecca, you've been waiting for me for a long time, right?" Murphy hurriedly got out of the car. He looked at Rebecca, who was sitting on a chair in the park. Rebecca said with a sweet smile, "No, I just finished filming." "I'll definitely come earlier next time," Murphy said. "Are you still working the night shift?" Rebecca asked. "Yes," Murphy said helplessly. "I only have night shifts." "Let's go for a walk." Looking at Rebecca's back, Murphy wanted to hold her hand several times, but he didn't have enough courage. Rebecca seemed to notice Murphy behind her. She turned around to look at him and then reached out to hold his hand. Murphy shuddered. It was probably his first time holding a girl's hand in his life. Even though they'd gone on a few dates, he still couldn't make any progress. This was unimaginable in this country. In America, when a couple officially started dating, the girl would say that she'd already canceled the apartment and moved to his place today before the guy even said anything. This was the norm in this society. It wasn't like Murphy and Rebecca, who played innocent for so long. There weren't many people in the park. Now that it was evening, there were even fewer people. Just then, there was a flash in the distance. Rebecca and Murphy both noticed the flash. They turned around and saw a figure hurrying away. "Who's that? Paparazzi." Rebecca's expression darkened. "Huh. What do we do? Will you be exposed? Will your company give you trouble? What do we do now?" Murphy was at a loss. "It's all my fault. I'm sorry for getting you into trouble. What should I do now?" Rebecca smiled and said it's okay. "The paparazzi probably didn't get my face, but we can't stay here. Let's go somewhere else." Yes. Murphy nodded repeatedly. "Where are we going now?" Let's find a restaurant. I haven't finished eating yet. Sorry, it's all my fault for coming too late. But the paparazzi might take pictures of us in a normal restaurant, Rebecca said. Then let's go to a high-class restaurant. Those paparazzi definitely won't be able to get in. Murphy braced himself and said. However, he was calculating in his heart how much salary he had left for this month. I've had enough of this life. I don't want to be a star anymore. Rebecca said, even when I'm with you, I have to be sneaky. It's like I'm a thief. I've had enough of that. It's better if you don't become a celebrity. Murphy didn't know how to respond to Rebecca's complaints, so he could only go along with her. But forget it. Rebecca shook her head. What happened? Nothing. Rebecca shook her head again. The two of them found a restaurant. Looking at the prices on the menu, Murphy felt dizzy. The minimum cost here was $1,000. Murphy had a toothache. Murphy, don't order too much, Rebecca said. I don't have much appetite. It wasn't Murphy's first time going out with Rebecca. He'd seen her appetite before. Although Rebecca had a slender figure, she wasn't very tall either. She was only 1.62 meters tall. But her appetite was even bigger than Murphy's very big. Murphy's staple food was blood, so he didn't usually eat outside. Occasionally, he would eat the cows in Chen Zhao's house and suck some blood from them. Of course, he could also eat regular food, but he didn't really eat much. Rebecca was different. Her appetite was 3 or 4 times that of a regular person. So, when Rebecca said she didn't have much appetite, it was only relative. Murphy still ordered a table full of dishes. Rebecca didn't stand on ceremony with Murphy either. Whenever Rebecca ate, she didn't look like a lady at all. She didn't look like a celebrity at all. Murphy really didn't have an appetite. He watched Rebecca eat with admiration in his eyes. Why aren't you eating? Oh. Murphy took a casual bite, but he still couldn't move his eyes away from Rebecca. Rebecca wiped her face clean and returned to being a lady. When it was time to pay, Murphy looked at the $1,325 bill and took out his card helplessly. Thankfully, he'd saved some money after he started working. Otherwise, he'd probably max out his credit card for this 1-month date. Let's go watch a movie, Rebecca said. Murphy glanced at the time and looked at Rebecca awkwardly. Rebecca, I have to go to work. Murphy, what exactly do you do? Why are you working at this time? I'm a security guard for a museum. The museum is open during the day. I'm only needed to patrol at night. I see. Then be careful. Rebecca held Murphy's right hand. If there's any danger, don't be rash. Okay, got it. Murphy felt that his whole body had softened, feeling the warmth from Rebecca's hand and the gentle look in her eyes. Lin Sanjiu felt a chill down his spine. Murphy didn't know how he got home. After sending Murphy to the car, Rebecca's face immediately darkened. She sensed that someone was watching her. Who was watching her? Rebecca couldn't find anyone who was watching her. Could it be someone Murphy hired? Impossible. That idiot didn't notice at all. Also, who was the person who took pictures of her in the park? Who was investigating her? After Murphy left, Rebecca didn't have to pretend to be a celebrity anymore. She just walked on the street. She wanted to draw out the person who was watching her. Just then, a car stopped next to Rebecca. Rebecca! Rebecca stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look. Asalaisa! Rebecca looked at Asalaisa in surprise. Why are you here? I should be the one asking you why you're here. Rebecca looked at Asalaisa's car. Is this your car? You seem to be rich. Asalaisa stared at Rebecca. Are you still doing what you're used to? That's all I can do. Leave Los Angeles. Don't do that in Los Angeles, Asalaisa said in a warning tone. Why do you care? Rebecca looked at Asalaisa angrily. You have no right to. Chapter 1367. Rebecca put her hands on the door of Asalaisa's car. She suddenly grinned viciously. Asalaisa, are you molesting me? I'm reminding you. I don't need reminding. Rebecca looked at Osalisa coldly. Los Angeles isn't your place. Rebecca's hands suddenly tightened, and Osalisa's car door was deformed. Osalisa frowned. You're still as violent as ever. Rebecca suddenly reached into the car and grabbed Osalisa's collar. Is this the first day you've met me? Osalisa stared back at Rebecca fearlessly. You'd better let go. Osalisa, you're still the same as before. All you can do is talk. I'm not who I used to be, said Osalisa. So what do you think? Rebecca was full of disdain for Osalisa. Osalisa's figure began to disappear, and Rebecca felt her hand loosen. She couldn't touch Osalisa's collar anymore. Rebecca looked around. Osalisa, are you still the same as before? You only know how to hide. Suddenly, a bloody mark appeared on Rebecca's neck. Rebecca snorted. She knew what Osalisa was capable of. However, in her eyes, Osalisa was a coward who only knew how to hide and run. But today, Osalisa had actually dared to attack her. Suddenly, Rebecca sensed danger and immediately took 2 steps back. But the next moment, Rebecca felt a stab of pain in her back. Rebecca angrily swung her fist in a 360-degree arc. However, she only swung her fist and didn't touch anything. The next moment, another bloody mark appeared on Rebecca's wrist. Although Osalisa's 3 attacks hadn't hurt her seriously, it was a great humiliation for the hot-tempered Rebecca to be attacked and injured by a woman who was as timid as a mouse. Osalisa, you're still as cowardly as before. Do you dare come out? The next moment, a tuft of Rebecca's hair fell. Rebecca reached out to catch her hair, a little surprised. Leave Los Angeles, or it'll be your face next time. Osalisa's voice sounded in Rebecca's ears. Rebecca swung her fist again, but again she missed. Suddenly, Rebecca saw a man standing in front of her. The man carried a briefcase and wore a suit and tie. He looked like a white-collar worker. Rebecca immediately charged at the man. The man did not seem to know what was going on. Rebecca reached for the man, but the next moment, Rebecca felt pain on her face. She looked at the man again and took a few steps back. Rebecca was enraged and reached out to grab the man again. Pah! Not only did he fail to catch her, he even received a slap. Rebecca picked up speed and grabbed again. This time, she saw the man's movements clearly. She took a step back and slapped him. She did see it clearly, but the man's movements were too fast. She couldn't keep up at all, and her body couldn't react in time. Pah! Rebecca was slapped again. Covering her face, she stared at the man in shock. This man wasn't an ordinary person either. He was a spiritualist too. Clearly, he was a spiritualist of a completely different element. She used a strength-enhancing spell, while the man used a speed-enhancing spell. She was at a disadvantage in front of him. Rebecca took a few steps back and stared at the man in front of her. This man and Osalisa were probably in cahoots. She couldn't do anything to Osalisa anymore. With this man around, her chances of winning were even lower. Rebecca turned around and left without any hesitation. Seeing that Rebecca had left, Osalisa finally came out of invisibility. Annelite, why are you here? Osalisa asked. I live nearby and saw you and that woman, Annelite said. Who's that woman? My sister, Osalisa said. Your sister? She doesn't look like your sister at all. She looks like a lunatic, Annelite said. She's a lunatic. Osalisa didn't dare tell him about Rebecca's glorious past. If the association knew that such a dangerous person existed in Los Angeles, they would definitely take action or eliminate her. Osalisa had thought that after 10 years, Rebecca might have changed. She didn't expect that Rebecca would still be as violent as before. That made Osalisa even more worried. If Rebecca did anything outrageous in Los Angeles, she probably wouldn't be able to protect her. In fact, if Rebecca were to meet her own leader, she would most likely die. She looks quite violent. You'd better find her quickly and get her out of Los Angeles, said an elite. Osalisa understood what an elite was trying to say. Don't tell the chairman about this, said Osalisa. Okay, I won't tell him. An elite nodded. How about a drink somewhere? Asked Osalisa. Rebecca touched the wound on her neck. It had completely healed. That was the benefit of strengthening spells. She had super self-healing abilities. However, running into Osalisa here didn't make Rebecca feel very happy. She hadn't seen Osalisa for 10 years. Osalisa, who only knew how to hide and run in the past, didn't run anymore but attacked her. Rebecca didn't expect that. His weak sister had actually undergone such a change. Also, she knew how to use her spells better than before. Could she really change so much in 10 years? Rebecca and Osalisa weren't real sisters. Their parents formed a new family and they became sisters too. But a car accident took their mother's life, and their father's personality changed drastically. He drank, abused, and even tried to rape Osalisa. That was the first time Rebecca killed someone. Their father. They found the secret of magic in their mother's belongings, and Osalisa was the first to awaken. At the time, they didn't understand what the Night of Awakening was. But Rebecca had protected Osalisa through that horrible night without any magic. When Rebecca awakened, she also relied on her own strength to get through it. From then on, they relied on their magic and began a life of theft and robbery. Unlike the gentle and timid Osalisa, Rebecca was a thug and a murderer. As long as it was for money, she would stop at nothing, even murder. Chapter 1368. That's basically it. I haven't seen her in 10 years. Osalisa took a sip of her beer. Looks like your sister is really dangerous, an elite said. If I had known, I wouldn't have let her go. I would have forced her to stay. Osalisa had wanted to prevent Rebecca from falling into the hands of the association. But now that she thought about it, she was wrong. It would be better to keep Rebecca here and beg for her life. That way, Rebecca might not die. But if Rebecca killed someone in Los Angeles, Osalisa wouldn't even be able to ask for mercy. Then what should we do? Find her as soon as possible. She can do whatever she wants, but not in Los Angeles. Rebecca had always been a vigilant person. She didn't return to her place immediately, because she vaguely sensed that someone was following her. Was it the person who took pictures of her? Rebecca guessed. Rebecca took out a makeup box from her pocket and looked behind her through the mirror on the box. More than 20 meters behind him, there was a car that was driving very slowly following behind him. There was a lot of traffic on this road. She couldn't make a move here. She would do it in a more secluded place. Rebecca thought to herself. Francis, on the other hand, followed Rebecca carefully. He didn't think it was necessary to be careful when following a woman. He didn't know that Rebecca had already noticed him. He didn't even realize that he had been led to a secluded place by Rebecca. Rebecca felt that the time was right. She turned around and was about to make a move. Suddenly, she felt a strong sense of danger. Rebecca knew where the sense of danger came from. A sniper. She had been targeted by a sniper. Rebecca suddenly ducked. Then a bowl-sized hole appeared on the ground next to Rebecca, and the concrete floor was kicked up with dust. A van sped over, and 2 men in black suits and sunglasses got out. They held machine guns and fired at Rebecca. Da-da-da. Rebecca reacted quickly and jumped into the bushes on the side of the road. The 2 shooters looked at each other. One of them carefully walked to the side of the road, holding the machine gun tightly. But at that moment, a hand reached out of the bushes and grabbed the shooter's face. The hand pulled forcefully, pulling the gunman into the darkness. Da-da-da. There was a burst of gunfire in the darkness, and then there was silence. Suddenly, gunshots rang out from the darkness again. However, this time, the gunshot was not aimed at the interior, but at the minivan. The driver of the minivan was killed on the spot. The remaining gunman cursed under his breath and quickly hid behind the car. The next moment, Rebecca dashed out of the darkness. She rammed straight into the van. Bang! The 2,000-kilogram van was knocked over, and the gunman hiding in the back was pinned to the ground. Rebecca turned to look at Francis' car. Francis was scared out of his wits. He immediately turned the steering wheel and fled. Rebecca wanted to chase after him, but the sniper fired again. Rebecca fell to the ground again. She could only watch as Francis escaped. She could only find the insidious sniper first. "Mr. Chun, it's me. I'm Francis." Francis was frightened tonight. He had originally thought that she was just an ordinary woman, but he didn't expect that woman to be so terrifying. As a private detective, he had met all kinds of people, even black, but he had never seen a real gunfight. It was too scary. How did the woman knock over the minivan? Did he see it wrong? Francis was still in a state of confusion. "Oh, Mr. Francis, did you finish the investigation so quickly?" "Investigate what?" "That woman is a killer. I saw her fighting with people on the road. She even killed 2 people. "Killer?" Chun Zhao was surprised. Was the business of killers so widespread now? They were even in the business of deceiving people. As far as Chun Zhao knew, professional killers made much more than scammers. Was a small fry like Murphy really worth a professional killer putting down his identity to seduce? Francis spoke incoherently, and his words were contradictory. Chun Zhao could feel that Francis was really scared. "Continue investigating that woman for me," Chun Zhao said. No way. "That woman is too dangerous," Francis shouted. "You took my money," Chun Zhao said. "I don't care. Anyway, I won't take this investigation again. Your $10,000 is my compensation." Francis decided to go back on his word. "Mr. Francis, you're afraid of that female killer. Do you think I'm easier to bully than her?" Chun Zhao didn't care how Francis felt. Since Francis had taken his money, he had to work for him. This was the rule. "I don't want to talk about this anymore. That's it." Francis hung up. Chun Zhao looked at the phone and turned to Feilai. "Feilai, I'm going out for a while." "It's so late. Do you still have clients?" "Murphy met a female scammer. I found a private detective to investigate her, but he took my money and stood me up." "Then you should teach him a lesson," Feilai said, unconcerned. Francis was feeling uneasy at the moment. He didn't take Chun Zhao's threat seriously. Someone who could find a private detective like him to investigate probably didn't have any connections. At least that was what he thought. What he really cared about was that woman, that terrifying woman. Would she find him? The more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. No, he couldn't stay here. Francis decided to leave Los Angeles first. Francis hurriedly packed his luggage, but when he walked out of his house, he saw Chun Zhao standing beside his car. Francis gathered his courage and walked up. "Why are you here?" Bang! Suddenly, a streak of blood appeared on Francis' cheek. A bullet flew past his face and landed on the ground beside Chun Zhao. Francis let out a cry and fell to the ground in fright. "Mr. Francis, I told you that you'd regret it." Chun Zhao stood before Francis. Francis held his head, not daring to look up. "No one has ever dared to take my money and stand me up. I don't know who gave you the courage. I was wrong. Sorry, I was wrong. Please let me go." Chapter 1369. If I can spend $30,000 to get you to investigate a woman's identity, I can spend $300,000 to buy your head. Chun Zhao stood up from the car and walked past Francis. Francis wanted to cry, but had no tears. He'd thought that Chun Zhao had no one to rely on in Los Angeles because he was Asian. He didn't expect Chun Zhao to be so ruthless. If the sniper had missed just a little, Francis' head would probably have been destroyed. After leaving Francis' field of vision, Chun Zhao gestured at Klaus, who was hiding in the dark. Klaus came out with a sniper rifle. "Klaus, did you do it on purpose?" "That's more threatening." Klaus chuckled. Chun Zhao had originally wanted Klaus to shoot Francis to scare him. In the end, Klaus showed off his marksmanship. Even Chun Zhao felt that it was a close call. "By the way, President, I need to take some time off," Klaus said. "Huh? What for?" "Something happened to a comrade. I received a call for help from his family." Chen Zhao thought about it and nodded. "Have everyone in the Lightning team follow. If there's anything you can't handle, contact me. Everyone in the society will support you." "Okay." Klaus nodded. "But I'm leaving tomorrow. The private detective won't be able to keep an eye on me." "It's fine, just a small problem," Chen Zhao said indifferently. "Where are you going?" "Let me tell you first, in case I can't find you. Did Rebecca know who had just attacked her?" "It was her old enemy. Back in New York, she'd attacked a mafia family. He robbed the Black Hand family of $20 million worth of gold and killed the heir of their family. All these years, Rebecca had been hiding everywhere. She'd always been low-key to avoid the mafia. It wasn't her first time being attacked like this. No matter how low-key she was, there would always be some traces. It seemed that she had to leave LA again." Rebecca was a little hesitant. "That boy, Murphy, should I go and say goodbye to him? In this cold world, perhaps only that man could bring her a little bit of warmth. That shy big boy, just a little bit of sweet talk would make him blush. Pure and kind, he was probably the last person in Rebecca's life that she wanted to hurt. However, in the end, they were not the same kind of people." Rebecca sighed. After hesitating for a while, Rebecca finally picked up the phone. "Murphy, are you working now?" "Yeah." "Rebecca, you haven't rested yet." I miss you," Rebecca said suddenly, but it seemed like she was speaking from the bottom of her heart. Even Rebecca felt shy. She had never said these words to anyone. That, "Me too. You're alone in the museum. Aren't you afraid of the dark?" Rebecca did not know what to say to Murphy. He swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. After a few times, he kept avoiding the main topic. "Rebecca, actually, I have something to tell you." "What is it?" "Actually, I'm not a security guard at the museum. I'm a security guard for my boss." "Oh." Rebecca didn't care. "I'll be helping the boss patrol his private territory tomorrow night," Murphy said. "Okay." Rebecca had wanted to say it over the phone, but she could not bring herself to do it. After thinking about it, Rebecca decided to see Murphy one last time. She wanted to say what needed to be said in person. "Murphy, are you free tomorrow?" Yes, Murphy replied immediately. "Then let's meet at North Coast Beach." "So remote?" "Oh, right, it's not convenient for you to expose yourself." "What time should we meet?" Murphy asked. "Tomorrow at 4. "Okay, I'll be there on time." North Coast Beach. In the 50s and 60s of the last century, it was a medium-sized fishing village. But in the 60s, the famous Memphis tsunami hit here, and the entire fishing village was almost wiped out. This disaster was basically one of the worst in American history because it happened at night. The cause of the tsunami was a magnitude 12 earthquake in the deep sea of the Pacific Ocean. Everyone in the fishing village was sleeping at the time. Because of the rainy weather, none of the fishermen went out to sea. As a result, the entire fishing village was wiped out. Of the 350 people in the village, apart from 4 young people in school, there were no other survivors. After that, the entire fishing village was abandoned. Although some developers later wanted to develop this place into a commercial beach, they all gave up in the end for inexplicable reasons. Rebecca did not like this place because it was still filled with the strong smell of death. Even after decades, it was still there. Rebecca had heard that this place was haunted, but she did not find any spirits after walking around the ruins. Rebecca sat on a stone slab by the sea and watched the turbulent waves. The sun gradually set, and Rebecca heard the rumbling of a car. Rebecca turned around and saw that it was a convertible. She was confused and a little wary. However, after the car stopped and she saw Murphy in the car, Rebecca finally let down her guard. "Murphy, whose car is this?" I borrowed it from the boss, Murphy said. Your boss actually lent you such a nice car? Rebecca looked at the black sports car and licked her lips inadvertently. Rebecca's occupational habit was acting up again. She was used to robbing people, but she remembered that this was Murphy's borrowed car. If she stole it, Murphy would be the unlucky one. Rebecca gave up on the idea. Your boss is very rich, right? Not just rich. Murphy shuddered. Rebecca saw the fear on Murphy's face. Are you scared of your boss? Yes, he's very scary. Murderous intent flashed in Rebecca's eyes. Is your boss fierce? Super fierce. In my eyes, he's a demon king. Then you've never seen a demon king. Rebecca smiled. She was thinking that before she left, she should help Murphy teach his boss a lesson. Looking at Rebecca's smile, Murphy was a little dazed. Do you want me to teach your boss a lesson for you? Stop joking. Nobody in the world can teach him a lesson. Not necessarily. Rebecca smiled casually. Murphy, I'm leaving Los Angeles. Chapter 1370. Murphy still didn't understand. He thought that Rebecca was going to a faraway place to film. Rebecca was put in a difficult position. Should she tell him directly? Or should she keep him in the dark forever? Suddenly, Rebecca looked up. Murphy, come with me. No. If I skip work, the boss will kill me. If he dares to bully you, I'll kill him. Rebecca's eyes flashed with fierceness. Murphy was shocked, even though Qin Zhao wasn't beside him right now. Whenever he thought of how terrifying Qin Zhao was, Murphy felt terrified. Who knew if Qin Zhao had some kind of spell that could spy on people who were bad-mouthing him behind his back? Murphy, I'll tell you directly, Rebecca said. I'm leaving L.A., and I might never come back. In the end, Rebecca told the truth. No matter how she beat around the bush, she still had to tell the truth. Since that was the case, she might as well tell the truth. Murphy jumped up and stared at Rebecca with widened eyes. Why? Murphy asked 2 whys in a row. Murphy felt as if his heart had been pulled hard, and his heart ached terribly. This was Murphy's first relationship. He never thought that it would end like this. Murphy, come with me. Let's leave here together. Rebecca grabbed Murphy's hand. Murphy felt his limbs go cold. He shook his head hurriedly. No, I can't leave without the boss' permission. He'll kill me. He'll really kill me. And you, give me his address. I'll talk to him. No, I really don't want it. Murphy pulled Rebecca. He didn't dare to tell the truth. Back then, he'd almost been killed because he'd found out Qin Zhao's secret. He didn't want Rebecca to be in danger too. I don't understand. What are you afraid of? Rebecca was angry at Murphy's cowardice. Suddenly, Rebecca's arm was hammered, and a flower of blood bloomed. Then there was a gunshot. Rebecca reacted quickly and immediately pulled Murphy to the ground. Rebecca, what's going on? You're wound. Shut up. Rebecca was very upset. She crouched on the ground and looked around. Bang! The ground around Rebecca and Murphy kicked up gravel. The shot missed. It wasn't the original sniper who fired the shot, but someone else. Rebecca had to focus and observe the sniper's position. But before they could find the sniper, they saw several gunmen from the Black Hand coming through the ruins. Not just that. There are still people in the bushes behind us. There were more gunmen. Snipers. 1, 2. So far, only 2 had been found. Rebecca had a bad feeling about this. Get in the car. Let's get out of here. Rebecca shouted, I'll hold them off. Murphy was so frightened that he hugged his head and curled up on the ground. Rebecca, on the other hand, disappeared into the bushes. Then, gunshots came one after another from the ruins. If Murphy's mother knew that Dracula's son was such a coward, he wondered if she would be so angry that she would rush over and strangle him to death. He let the woman he liked charge into the fray while he lay on the ground like an ostrich. But it couldn't be helped. Murphy had too little experience. The only time was in the crypt demon lair. But it wasn't him who attacked. It was Chen Zhao who arrived. Murphy suddenly thought that he could ask Chen Zhao for help. Murphy immediately took out the phone. Just then, a strong hand grabbed Murphy by the collar and lifted him up. "Murphy, why are you still here?" Murphy looked up. It was Rebecca. But at the moment, Rebecca was covered in blood. Some of it belonged to the enemy, while others belonged to her. "Rebecca, I'm looking for the boss. He'll come and save us. Get in. Let's go." Rebecca threw Murphy into the car. Because of the excessive blood loss and the strenuous exercise, Rebecca's heartbeat was beating unnaturally. I'll drive. Looking at Rebecca, Murphy knew that she couldn't drive. Just then, gunshots came from behind again. The windshield and the car had a few holes. Lowering his head, Murphy floored the gas pedal. Many headlights appeared behind them at the same time. Thankfully, the Porsche 918 was much more powerful than the pursuing car. But Rebecca didn't look so good. Enduring the pain, she dug out the bullet embedded in her wound. If she didn't, her wound wouldn't heal by itself. But she couldn't do anything about the blood loss. "Oh no!" Rebecca suddenly shouted. "We can't go any further. There's no road ahead." The coastal road wasn't long. The desert was right in front of them. Before Murphy could react, the car drove into the gravel at the end of the road. The distance that the sports car had created earlier was gone. The sports car could only run on flat roads. It couldn't run on sand at all. "Let's go." Rebecca pulled Murphy out of the car. They couldn't turn back now. They could only run deeper into the sand. Rebecca looked back again. It seemed that the mafia family was determined to kill her this time. They actually sent so many people. There were at least 30 cars parked at the end of the road. There were probably close to 100 people. If it was just a few people, she could easily take care of them. She could barely kill a dozen or so people. But if there were 100 people, there was really nothing she could do. "Murphy, let's go separately," Rebecca said. "No, I'm going to send you out. You'll only be a burden if you stay here." Rebecca didn't want to drag Murphy down. "That's what they say on TV. Anyway, I won't leave you," Murphy said. "Murphy, don't you understand? You and I aren't the same kind of people." Murphy turned around and looked at Rebecca with a serious look in his eyes. Actually, I'm a vampire. My full name is Murphy Dracula." "What?" Rebecca looked at Murphy in shock. "Vampires? Are you kidding?" "No, I'm serious." Murphy opened his mouth and revealed his 2 canines. "Look, my teeth. Are there really vampires?" "You're a spiritualist. Don't you know?" Murphy asked in confusion as he supported Rebecca. "I don't have much contact with other spiritualists," Rebecca said. Suddenly, Rebecca's legs turned to jelly, and she almost fell to the ground. "Are you too tired to walk? I'll carry you." Murphy pulled Rebecca behind him, and Rebecca felt a sense of security. At least Murphy was the same as her. Do vampires have any special abilities? For example, turning into bats or flying? Chapter 1371. Murphy, you're tired too, right? Rebecca looked at the sweaty Murphy, carrying a person in the desert. Even though Murphy's stamina was extraordinary, it was impossible for him not to be tired. "It's okay. I can keep going." Puff! Suddenly, blood blossomed from Murphy's left thigh. Another sniper. "Ah!" Murphy cried out in pain. Rebecca's expression became even more serious. She pressed Murphy's body onto the ground. She could already see the mafia approaching from afar. What should she do? What should she do? This was the first time Rebecca was at a loss. There was nowhere to hide and Murphy was injured. Leave him behind? Rebecca couldn't do that. In the past, she never had feelings for anyone. But once she did, she would do anything without caring about her own safety. In the end, this battle ended with her loss. This was because she could no longer kill people without any worries like she did in the past. Even if she couldn't kill people, she could run if she couldn't win. Mr. Chin, I'm at the end of the North Coast Beach Road. Francis looked at the figure in the sand. Once he was discovered, he would immediately turn around and run. Your man and the female assassin are in danger. Francis told him everything he had seen. He was very nervous. These people were all mafia. He could tell from their clothes and behavior. In America, the mafia was undoubtedly the last person to mess with. Suddenly, the car shook violently. Francis's head hit the steering wheel. Then the airbag popped out and bounced Francis back. In a daze, Francis felt himself being dragged out of the car. Then a stinky liquid was poured on his face. Francis woke up. Black suit, white gloves, gentleman's hat. Francis shuddered. I noticed someone was following us. Is it that woman's accomplice? Hey, who are you? Francis couldn't care about the pain anymore. He quickly covered his head. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'm a reporter. I'm a reporter. Reporter? The gang leader frowned. He was an enforcer of the mafia. He worked directly for the leader and only listened to the leader's orders. Although they themselves were lawbreakers, they still called themselves law enforcers. Usually, if there were any enemies or traitors in the family, the enforcers would lead a team to deal with them. The organizational structure of the party was mostly based on the structure of the family, and the patriarch was the supreme existence. Of course, there were also mafia bosses who were bosses or fathers. The second was the advisor, who could be considered as the personal assistant of the patriarch and had great authority. Then there was the secondary patriarch, which was usually held by the patriarch's brother or wife. Next were the commanders and soldiers. One of the subordinates moved closer to the law enforcer. I found a camera in his car. I checked the contents. He seems to be following that woman. The enforcer picked up the camera and checked the content inside. Why are you following that woman? Someone hired me. Francis didn't plan on helping him hide it now. Since he was about to lose his life, there was no point in hiding anymore. Moreover, he was forced to do this job. Francis forced himself to calm down and said, I'm not following the woman. I'm following the man. I know nothing about you, and I won't tell anyone about this. Right now, he only hoped that Chen Zhao's reinforcements would arrive soon. Otherwise, these vicious mafias wouldn't let him live at all. You're lying. The enforcer suddenly grabbed Francis' collar in anger. No, I didn't. I really didn't, Francis cried out hurriedly. Actually, the enforcer was just bluffing Francis. Just then, the people in the desert came out, dragging Rebecca and Murphy out. Both of them were thrown in front of Francis. Seeing Rebecca, the enforcer went up and kicked her hard. This woman had brought him too much trouble. She'd also caused him too many casualties. Rebecca was covered in cuts and bruises. It was a tragic sight. Tell me, who is he? The enforcer asked, pointing at Francis. Rebecca saw Francis on the ground, who was connected to her in the same situation. I don't know him. In fact, Rebecca really didn't know Francis. She was even more confused. She didn't understand what these mafias meant. Why is he following and filming you? Rebecca suddenly remembered that someone had been following and filming her yesterday. So it was this man. But Rebecca really didn't understand. Boss, what should we do with this woman? Wait, I'll call the chief, the enforcer said. Of course, he wanted to kill Rebecca right now. He knew how dangerous this woman was. If she was transported to New York, it would be very troublesome. Who knew if something would happen to her on the way? Before this, there had been many records of her being captured, but every time she found an opportunity and escaped. After so many years, almost 100 people had died in her hands. To be honest, even as a mafias, he felt how terrifying this woman was. Hey, Chief, we caught that woman. I'm asking you how to deal with her. Kill her. I'm tired of this long and trivial hunting. I don't want any more accidents this time. Yes, I understand. The enforcer finally smiled. After the enforcer hung up the phone, he pulled out a cold pistol from behind his back, walked in front of Rebecca, and pointed it at her head. Rebecca had completely lost all hope. This time she couldn't fight back. She didn't have any chance. These gangsters had learned to be more obedient after fighting with her over and over again. They didn't give her any chance at all. No, don't hurt Rebecca. If you want to kill someone, kill me. Murphy struggled and tried to rush over to save Rebecca. Bang! Blood blossomed on Murphy's chest. When Rebecca saw Murphy on the ground, she struggled to get up as well. But the two mafias behind her hit the back of Rebecca's head with their gun butts. Rebecca fell to the ground. An enforcer pointed his gun at Rebecca's head. Do you have any last words? Rebecca looked at Murphy in pain. Murphy, I'm sorry. Looking at Rebecca weakly, Murphy smiled miserably. The boss will come to save us. He will. Don't be afraid. The boss will come. Chapter 1372. Just when Rebecca was in despair, suddenly a scream came from the darkness. Everyone froze. They were at the end of the road, and there were no street lights along the way. Clouds covered the moon tonight, so there was no natural light. Their only source of light was the headlights. Everything was dark except for a dozen cars. But the scream came too suddenly. This sound was more like someone playing a prank. But except for Rebecca, Francis, and Murphy, everyone else was black. They were a bunch of people who didn't know humor. Obviously, this wasn't a joke. Or it wasn't a prank at all. What happened? The enforcer asked, looking up. I don't know. Send a few people over, the enforcer said. As soon as they entered the darkness, intense gunshots and screams came. A gunman ran to the enforcer in panic. Boss, there's... Before the gunman could finish, he was dragged into the darkness by something. But no one could see clearly what it was. And when the gunman was dragged into the darkness, his posture was too strange. He didn't look like he was dragged into the darkness at all. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. All the gunmen pointed their guns at the darkness. But the next moment, a car appeared in front of them. It was their car. But the car didn't appear from the front. Instead, it smashed at them from the side and then smashed into the cars next to them. On the spot, more than a dozen gunmen were smashed into meat sandwiches. The car didn't hit them in a straight line. Instead, it drew an arc in the darkness, as if it had been swung by something. The gunmen didn't know what to do. They couldn't see where the enemy was at all. They could only shoot aimlessly into the darkness. Maybe they thought that if they were lucky, they could hit the enemy. At this time, the headlights of the car at the end of the road disappeared. Their field of vision shrank again. One of the gunmen threw a grenade. The moment the grenade lit up, everyone saw the grenade swallow a figure. Was it over? Everyone had the same question in their minds. Just then, red lines began to extend in the darkness. The red lines seemed to drift with the current. Everyone was afraid of the unknown. No one understood what was happening. The red lines began to turn black from the left and right, and the lights of the cars parked along the road went out one by one. At this moment, the red lines had completely surrounded black. In the next instant, all the cars were pulled into the darkness and disappeared. All the light sources disappeared, and everyone was plunged into darkness. Ah-da-da-da, boom, boom, 3 minutes. It was only 3 minutes. All the sounds disappeared. At the end of the road at night, the silence was frightening. At this moment, the Porsche 918's headlights suddenly lit up. Rebecca and Murphy suddenly saw someone standing in front of them. Rebecca's reaction was the fastest. She quickly retreated. Boss, Murphy exclaimed in surprise. He had long known that it was Chen Zhao. However, he hadn't seen Chen Zhao use dark lava before, so he wasn't sure. Chen Zhao glanced at Murphy, then at Rebecca. Finally, he saw a few bullet holes in his car. Murphy, do you know that you've skipped work today? Boss, I didn't do it on purpose. Chen Zhao lifted Murphy and slapped him in the face. Do you know that my car is damaged? Boss, I let go of Murphy. Rebecca had recovered quite a bit by now. She charged at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao raised his hand and grabbed Rebecca's neck. Rebecca wanted to struggle, but the strength she was so proud of was as weak as a baby before Qin Zhao. Rebecca had never felt so powerless before. She tried to resist, but her resistance was futile. According to the damage to my car, you have to pay me $300,000, Qin Zhao said. Boss, I don't have money. Can you let Rebecca go first? No money? Black Boastier appeared behind him, opening his abyss-like mouth. No money? Does that mean you want to go back on your word? Let Murphy go. I'll help him pay back the money he owes. Rebecca finally understood that Qin Zhao was a real demon king. Murphy wasn't exaggerating at all. This man was terrifying. More than 100 gangsters had died in his hands just like that. Even their corpses couldn't be found. Do you have money? I don't. Give me 3 months. I promise I'll pay you back, Rebecca said. Rebecca felt that even if she had to steal or rob, she would find a way to pay for Murphy. It might be possible to get $300,000 in 3 months. Huh. Qin Zhao sneered. Do you think I have the patience to wait for 3 months? Boss, don't joke around. Murphy was really scared. He knew Qin Zhao's temper. Qin Zhao was always moody. Qin Zhao casually tossed Murphy and Rebecca onto the ground. He turned to look at Francis, who was stunned, and threw a stack of money in front of Francis. Do you know what to say and what not to say? Francis swallowed. Looking at the stack of money again, he nodded hurriedly. I know. I'll watch my mouth. It's okay if you can't. I'll shut your mouth forever, so don't give me a chance to make you shut up. Got it? Francis grabbed the money on the ground and stuffed it into his pocket. You're still here? Francis stared at the night sky. You want me to walk back? What else? I'll take you? But L.A. is dozens of kilometers away. I can probably walk to L.A. at dawn. Francis lowered his head helplessly. Just then, a jackal howled in the night sky. There really were jackals in the desert. Francis was so scared that he almost peed his pants. Mr. Qin, can I go with you? Why should I bring you along? Qin Zhao looked at Francis. Francis took out the money. How about I pay you back? I don't need money. Francis was about to cry. Tell me what you need me to do. How about this? I don't need you to do anything. If I need you in the future, just be smart. Chapter 1373. Qin Zhao looked at Murphy and Rebecca. This was Rebecca's first encounter with a spiritualist other than Asalisa. She'd once thought that she was strong enough, but after seeing Qin Zhao for real, she realized how insignificant she was. She had never known that a single person could wipe out the entire Black Hand gang. Even when she was at her best, she never had such a thought. Although the mafia here wasn't the entire family, it was still the family's full strength. Rebecca didn't think that the family would go all out for her. But she also didn't think that it would end like this. Boss, I'll ask my mother for money. She has money. Murphy looked up at Qin Zhao. He was even more afraid of Qin Zhao now. Sure, call her. Qin Zhao tossed his phone to Murphy. Murphy picked up the phone and dialed Agnes's number. Hey, Mom, help. Boss wants to kill me. Instinctively, Murphy complained to his mother. Oh, you're not dead yet, Agnes said, unconcerned. I borrowed Boss's car, but I was attacked and the car was damaged. Now Boss wants me to pay $300,000. Can you lend me $300,000? I don't have money. Go to hell. When Agnes heard that Murphy wanted to borrow money, she directly refused him and hung up the phone. Murphy was dumbfounded. Did his mother want him to die? Looks like even your mother can't save you. Qin Zhao smiled at Murphy. Murphy looked at Qin Zhao with a sad face. Boss, What do you want to let me and Rebecca go? Keep patrolling for me. I'll let you go when you pay the money. Chen Zhao didn't have a good solution now. In fact, it wasn't about the $300,000. Chen Zhao just casually asked for $300,000. The Porsche 918 was expensive, but it couldn't be repaired for $300,000. To put it bluntly, he was making things difficult for them. But how should he deal with them? He couldn't kill them. Looking at Rebecca's eyes, Murphy knew that the kid was really in love. If he killed Rebecca directly, Murphy would either be crippled or he would fight to the death with him. So, Chen Zhao planned to keep Rebecca alive for now. As for the future, he would think about it in the future. At the very least, it would be up to Murphy's mother to decide. At that time, it would be none of his business whether he was killed or tortured. Boss. Then, unwilling? Forget it, I'll kill her now. Chen Zhao stepped forward. Rebecca wanted to escape, but Chen Zhao had already grabbed her neck. I agree. Don't hurt Rebecca. Chen Zhao let go of Rebecca again. Don't try to run. You can't run anywhere in L.A. If I catch you after you run, you'll suffer a fate worse than death. Chen Zhao and Francis left in the sports car. He left Murphy and Rebecca rooted to the ground. After Chen Zhao left, Rebecca slumped to the ground helplessly. Half of it was because he was weak, and the other half was because he was scared. That person is your boss? Murphy nodded silently. Actually, boss is usually quite nice, as long as you don't offend him. What if you offend him? The boss once fought a very scary monster. That monster called itself the Fallen Source. Then the boss cut that fallen source into pieces. Don't be an enemy of the boss. Absolutely don't be an enemy of him. He has many subordinates, and each of them is very scary. The boss also has many pets. Murphy suddenly paused. He realized that he'd said too much, because he discovered the three-headed dog and the Hydra. Chen Zhao had never let him go. Why aren't you talking? Boss's pets can actually turn into monsters? Like that huge black beast just now. Rebecca pointed at Bustil. That's not Boss's pet. I think that guy's called Bustil. I think he used to be Boss's enemy too. Then Boss skinned him and controlled him. Rebecca shuddered. This guy was quite brutal. Last time in San Diego, the local gang offended Miss Falai, Boss's girlfriend. Then Boss chopped off the hands and feet of the gang's hundreds of members. Rebecca vaguely remembered this incident. It had been too big of a deal. The police couldn't hide it, even if they wanted to. It seemed that a truck full of gang members with their limbs chopped off was stopped at a stop and then set on fire. She didn't expect Chen Zhao to be the culprit. The more Rebecca heard, the more terrified she became. No wonder Murphy said that his boss was a demon. Francis didn't speak on the way. He didn't dare to speak either. He just drove in silence. Chen Zhao leaned against a car door, thinking about something. Chen Zhao hesitated. Francis immediately pricked up his ears. Continue investigating that woman called Rebecca, Chen Zhao said. I want to know more. Okay, Mr. Chen. You'll get all the money you deserve. Chen Zhao paused. Then he said, Oh, investigate the identity of the person who attacked them today. He looks like a gang. It's the New York gang. Oh, I know how they talk and do things. The white glove guy is a law enforcer. They're the most arrogant gang in North America right now. But after today, they won't be able to be arrogant anymore. Why? Because you killed almost all of their main forces. Francis panicked when he thought of the more than 100 lives that had been lost. Any normal person would be terrified to have such a demon beside them. Now that they've lost a lot of power, Francis said, their past enemies definitely won't let them go. There's so many gangs in New York. They'll probably be completely wiped out soon. Are you familiar with this? Were you in a gang before? I was a gangster more than a decade ago. I know a bit about this. Chen Zhao glanced at Francis. He was only in his 30s. A decade ago, that meant he'd been in the gang since he was a teenager. Just then, Qin Zhao saw two figures in front. He wasn't unfamiliar with one of them. It was Daly Moore. The other was also a woman. She was quite young. What were they doing on the street in the middle of the night? Chapter 1374. Dahlia Moore and Navots. Singer stopped. They saw Chan Zhao and Francis in the car. Mr. Qin, why are you here? I should be the one asking you. Why are you here? I have something to do, Daly Moore said. The cemetery is up ahead, Qin Zhao said. It's not safe there. If you keep going there, you better be careful. With that, Qin Zhao told Francis to drive. Knotts glanced at the car's taillights and asked, Daly Moore, you know him? He's my dad's friend. From his tone, he seems to be from the spiritual world, too. Yes, I became a witch because of him. He looks so weak, Knott said. I can't sense any threat from him. Didn't you say that he's either ridiculously powerful or knows how to hide his aura? He's both, Daly Moore said. Him, I can't tell. My senses are much stronger than yours. But I can't sense anything special about him. Mr. Chen, who are those two? Witches, Qin Zhao said calmly. Francis didn't ask any more. He was quite against supernatural events and people now. Ever since Chen Zhao threatened him, he'd been very uneasy. Especially tonight, the uneasiness had reached its peak. Originally, he thought that once this matter was over, his emotions would calm down. But that wasn't the case. Francis's uneasiness continued. It's already over, but you still seem to be afraid. Qin Zhao glanced at Francis. Francis's expression was frozen. Usually I won't kill ordinary people. Even if they are, most of them are from gangs or gangs. Of course, there are those who don't listen. Francis forced a smile and kept driving. Mr. Qin, there are really souls in the world, right? Yes. Is there hell? Yes. What about heaven? I don't know. The car reached Francis's house and he got off. Your house is inauspicious. Go somewhere else, Qin Zhao said and left. Francis was stunned. He looked up at his house and opened his mouth, his expression ugly. Originally, he didn't think there was any problem with his house. He had lived in it for a few years. He did not encounter any supernatural incidents. But now, hearing Qin Zhao's words, he didn't know what to do. If an ordinary person or a stranger said this, he would definitely spit on the other side. But it was Chan Zhao who said that. Qin Zhao was a real person from the supernatural world. Since he said it was inauspicious, then it must be true. What could he do if Qin Zhao didn't make himself clear? It would have been better if Qin Zhao hadn't mentioned it. After Qin Zhao did, Francis started imagining things. Standing in front of the door, he didn't know whether he should enter or not. Chan Zhao didn't sleep for the entire night. He was also worried about leaving Murphy in the wilderness. Just like their own children, their hearts were always a little uneasy. Chan Zhao didn't relax until Murphy and Rebecca came back in the morning. But after this night, Murphy and Rebecca's relationship had progressed again. At least Rebecca was living in the house Murphy rented in Mountain Hills. As for whether he was on base or not, Qin Zhao didn't need to worry about it. But a man and a woman living under the same roof. Qin Zhao didn't believe that they didn't do anything. It was just like how Chen Zhao and Fei Lai had been roommates in the beginning. Qin Zhao couldn't get over it back then. He didn't want to eat the grass near his nest. In the end, it only took them a little more than a month to completely get along. When Chen Zhao left China, he had broken up with his ex-girlfriend not long ago. His relationship was hurt too. Back then, Qin Zhao had planned to never get married. They only talked about romance and not love. It was just that no one could control their feelings. Now that he was with Fei Lai, it was more like family than love. Of course, this wasn't bad. Qin Zhao was very satisfied with his family. As for Murphy and Rebecca's future, Qin Zhao couldn't be bothered. They weren't his parents. He didn't need to worry about that. Mr. Chen, the factory is having a meeting today. We're going to discuss the price. Would you like to come and participate? No, you guys decide. Mr. Chin, right now, our brewery has 3 kinds of packaged beer. They're 580 milliliters cans, 650 milliliters cans, and 900 milliliters cans. I plan to price them at $3, $4, and $6 respectively. Do you think we need to negotiate the prices? Isn't that too expensive? Chen Zhao felt that the price was really high. At present, the price of the same amount of beer on the market was between $1 and $2, but the price in Denver was more than 3 times that. Would consumers really pay for such expensive beer? Chen Zhao was very doubtful. Mr. Chen, I came to this conclusion after testing the product. Almost every customer asked our salesman where they could buy this beer. At the same time, I also did a product comparison. Every time I put 20 beers and our beer in front of 20 people and let them try it, they'll choose the beer they like the most. The probability of our beer being chosen is 95%, so I think we have the right to raise the price, Denver said confidently. Our production capacity this year is 150,000 tons at most. I believe our beer will bring us great profits. Didn't you say that we're going to add another production line? This production line is still in testing. We're mainly using Kansas Stengel wheat, but there's no such wheat on the market anymore. If we want it, we'll have to wait until after the autumn harvest, so the second production line can only wait until after the autumn harvest. We have to buy enough wheat to start fermentation. Chen Zhao wasn't very confident. Such a high price was very risky. Mr. Chen, please trust my market judgment. Okay, I trust you. In the end, Chen Zhao decided to listen to Denver's pricing suggestion. There were risks, but he could bear it. But if he could open up the market, a high price would also mean a high return. 150,000 tons of beer was about 180 million liters. According to this price, 1 liter of beer would be around $7, and the sales would probably exceed $1 billion. After deducting the cost, business tax, and personal income tax, he could probably recover the cost in the first year and realize profits. He could make more than $200 million this year. Chapter 1375. The cost of 580 milliliters of beer on the market wouldn't exceed $1. So, according to Denver's high pricing, the profit would be very high. If Chen Zhao didn't take any profits this year and continued to invest in production, he could get rid of the tax. Of course, this was calculated based on the best sales. Because Dashin beer was new and only available in Mara supermarkets this year, it couldn't be sold out in a short time. Chen Zhao had to see how the first batch sold. Chen Zhao still needed to borrow money and invest in advertisements. No matter how good Dashin beer tasted, it would be hard to enter the market in a short time without enough advertising. If he let word of mouth grow, it would take at least 2 to 3 years to see results. Chen Zhao didn't have that much money to sustain losses for 2 to 3 years. By then, he would have to borrow from the bank. Beer had always been a high-profit industry. Chen Zhao's brewery's current production was less than 1/10 of those big brands. For example, Budweiser, which had the highest sales in the world, was also the most famous beer brand in the world. Its annual sales were 5 billion liters, and its revenue was over $50 billion. Its net profit was close to $8 billion. Compared to such a big international brand, Dashin beer was like a baby. On the first day of June, Dashin beer was officially available in Mara supermarkets. The advertisements also started. But Chen Zhao's mind was all on Feilai. There was less than a month until her due date. Chen Zhao didn't go out at all. Even when Stephen and Raspa asked him to go out for a drink, he refused. Brazil's southwestern city, Nilmara, was at the edge of the Amazon rainforest. 1/3 of the city was connected to the rainforest. Further in was the town of New Bali. New Bali had a population of less than 10,000. Its main industry was tourism. Many of the people there were working as guides, mainly to lead the way for people entering the Amazon rainforest. However, most of the locals would only bring the tourists in for less than 10 kilometers before bringing them out. Beyond 10 kilometers, even the locals couldn't guarantee the tourists' safety. They knew the dangers of the rainforest better than outsiders. It was the most dangerous place in the world. Without a guide, ordinary tourists would lose their lives in minutes when they entered the tropical rainforest. This was definitely not a joke. 10 kilometers was because many people walked. This area was basically half open, so the danger was basically eliminated. However, no one could guarantee their safety if they went any deeper, unless they cut down all the trees. Apart from tourists, there were also explorers, scientists, and mercenaries in the new Bali town. Here, one could see all kinds of people walking on the streets. The natives were also asking the strangers if they needed a guide. When Klaus and the members of the lightning squad arrived at New Bali town, they all felt extremely tired. The temperature here was maintained at 35 degrees Celsius during the day. It was fine if it was just hot. Most importantly, the humidity was as high as 90%, and this was in the town. Once they entered the rainforest, the humidity would directly exceed 99%. What did that mean? Basically, if you stood in the rainforest for a minute, your face would be covered in water. Furthermore, he couldn't wear short-sleeved shirts and shorts. If he wore short-sleeved shirts and shorts, it was basically no different from committing suicide. Klaus, where are your friends? Let's look for it. Female 1. 82 meters tall. It should be very obvious. Over there. The members of the lightning squad had sharp eyes and quickly found the person Klaus was talking about. Ciao, Shika. Klaus waved at the woman. Klaus. Ciao, Shika happily ran forward and gave Klaus a passionate hug. Ciao Shika had the common characteristics of Latin American beauties, but she wasn't as petite as the Latin beauties. Her physique and bones were both large, and she was about the same height and physique as Klaus. My God, your hand strength has increased again, Klaus teased. Actually, Ciao Shika's strength wasn't enough to make Klaus feel uncomfortable. These are... Ciao Shika turned to look at the members of the lightning squad. They are my brothers, Klaus said. Let's go, let's find a place to sit. After finding a place to sit, the lightning squad and Ciao Shika began to get to know each other. Ciao Shika joined the army at the same time as Klaus. In comparison, Klaus and the lightning squad met later. They were originally part of the border force and were mainly responsible for overseas missions and border battles. But later, Klaus was transferred to the Marine Corps and even went to a real battlefield. After that, he entered the elite team of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department and became the leader of the Lightning Squad. After Ciao Shika and a few familiar comrades retired from the army, they became mercenaries again. All these years, Klaus had always kept in touch with Ciao Shika and the others, so their relationship hadn't faded. This time, when his old comrades were in trouble, the first person Ciao Shika asked for help was Klaus. Klaus didn't let him down. He came at the first moment and even brought the lightning squad with him. It was obvious that Klaus was a person who valued relationships. Ciao Shika, tell us the details. 10 days ago, we received a mission to protect an exploration team into the tropical rainforest. The specific destination was the Xikil region of the Amazon rainforest. Why didn't you go in? Klaus asked. I got dysentery, Ciao Shika said helplessly. It was the most common disease in the tropical rainforest or at the border. If it wasn't treated in time, it would be very dangerous, even life-threatening. So I was hospitalized and missed the mission. That's why I ended up in the hospital and missed the mission. After that, I became responsible for external communications. When the team entered Silas territory, which was 5 days ago, I received a distress message from the team. The one who contacted me was Kamalari. They seemed to have been attacked by the natives. Among them, Doran, Barker, and Laravizin were already dead. Now, there are only 4 of them left, and they are trapped somewhere. In the 3 days before you arrived, Kamalari contacted me many times. However, Because the batteries they brought with them were running low, we agreed to contact each other at 6 o'clock in the evening every day. We completely lost contact the day before yesterday. Are you sure they are still alive? Klaus asked. This was a crucial question. If they were still alive, then the risk was worth it. If they were dead, then the risk was worthless. After all, even if they found them, they might not even find a complete corpse. Klaus had to think about the people who were still alive. There's an 80% chance that they're still alive. In our last contact, Kamalari explained the situation. They seemed to be trapped in an ancient building, but he couldn't tell us the exact location. They've brought with them a complete set of equipment, fresh water, medicine, and compressed food. Based on my estimation, if we exclude external environmental factors, they can hold on for at least 6 days. Klaus didn't hesitate. An 80% chance of survival was high enough. Chapter 1376. Xiao Shika, are you sure you want to go in with us? Klaus asked. Klaus, don't you believe in my abilities? Xiao Shika looked at Klaus with dissatisfaction. Nami is a woman too. If she can go in, why can't I? Nami turned her head. She was the only woman in the lightning squad. Nami had nothing to say about Xiao Shika comparing her to her. She couldn't tell Xiao Shika that she was stronger than him. Okay, I don't mean anything else, Klaus said. I just think that we need a contact person outside. If we run into trouble, someone can come and save us. That's easy, Xiao Shika said. I know someone here. He can be the contact person, temporarily. Not long after, Xiao Shika found the person. He was a local native. He was only 6 meters tall and had dark skin, but his eyes looked very sharp. Klaus, let me introduce you. This is Moji. Hello, I'm Klaus. Klaus shook hands with Moji. Mr. Klaus, how may I be of service? If we don't come back after 15 days in the rainforest, you can call this number and help me explain the situation to them. Okay, that's easy. Moji nodded. The group of 7 entered the rainforest from the entrance. Klaus, who's that number? Xiao Shika asked curiously. Our boss, Klaus said. He can solve any problem. This is the Amazon rainforest, the most dangerous place in the world. Xiao Shika said. You don't need strength here, you need to be careful. Our boss is so powerful that he can ignore all danger, Nami said. Xiao Shika looked at Klaus and the other members of the lightning squad. They all had a look of faith in their eyes, but her rationality told her that this was wrong. The Amazon rainforest had welcomed countless people who thought they were invincible. However, no one who stepped into this primitive and mysterious land with such a mentality could walk out alive. This wasn't a war between humans. It was the ultimate test of humanity against nature. The dangers here came from all aspects: animals, plants, and the climate and environment. For example, the most venomous animal in the world, the poison arrow frog. The venom of the poison arrow frog was so strong that it didn't need to enter the mouth or the bloodstream. As long as it came into contact with the skin, it could directly penetrate the skin. There was once a researcher who dripped a drop of poison dart frog secretion on the back of his hand. His hand felt like it was being burned, and he died after suffering for 3 days. Modern medicine could not do anything about it. If the poison of the poison dart frog came into contact with a human's wound, it would be even easier. It would only take 10 minutes. There were also all kinds of poisonous snakes, all kinds of deadly and disease-causing insects, all kinds of poisonous snakes, and all kinds of ferocious beasts. After entering the rainforest, the humidity in the air had increased significantly. The higher the humidity, the more pineal hormone secreted by the human body's pineal glands. The pineal hormone would cause the cells to become inactive, and the person would become listless, and powerless. At the same time, due to the high humidity, body heat could not be released and heat stroke would occur. Prolonged heat stroke can cause brain death. It was not Xiao Shika's first time in the Amazon rainforest, but even though she had been there many times, she still could not get used to it. This was the zone with the most extreme humidity on Earth. They used 3 hours to walk past the safe zone and began to face the true nature of the rainforest. Just then, it started to rain cats and dogs. In the tropical rainforest, the rain was very frequent, and it was without any warning. In most cases, the rainfall was very small, maybe a few square kilometers or more than a dozen square kilometers, and there was no pattern to it. But the duration was very short, and the rainfall was very heavy. But this rain was very beneficial to the team. The washing of the rain made the air fresh, and at the same time, it took away the accumulated heat in their bodies. Phew! So comfortable. Klaus took off his hat and twisted the rainwater on his head. Of course, the rain also brought them some trouble, and the ground under their feet became muddy. Just then, a large river appeared in front of them. The Amazon River was the largest river in the world, and it had so many branches that satellites could not scan it clearly. Also, the changes in the Amazon River were very frequent, and the river changed its course almost every day. As long as there was enough water in a depression, it could form a river, and then it could connect to the main river. The river was about 30 meters wide, not very big, but the water was very turbulent and muddy, and they could not see the depth of the river. Everyone cut a tree branch, and we will cross the river, Klaus ordered. Pay attention to what is in the water, Qiao Shika reminded. Qiao Shika, you follow behind me, Klaus said. I am more familiar with this place than you, Qiao Shika said. I will take the lead. Qiao Shika was very dissatisfied with Klaus's arrangement of her in the middle of the team. She felt that she was qualified to stand in any position in the team. It is just a river, Klaus said. Also, I am the team leader now, so please listen to my orders. Qiao Shika was helpless. Klaus had already used the tone of the team leader, so she had to obey. No matter the situation, soldiers had to obey the orders and arrangements of their superiors. The river was not as deep as they thought. The deepest part was less than 2 meters, and the mud on the riverbed was not thick, so it should be a branch that had changed course recently. Since it was a river that had changed course recently, the possibility of crocodiles could be ruled out. At the same time, the speed of the river could also rule out the possibility of water eels. Water eels would not be active in water where the river flowed too fast. They preferred slow-flowing river water or lurked in swamps. Because their bodies were too heavy, they were not good swimmers, and it was very likely that they would be washed away by the river. Everyone went ashore one by one, and suddenly Nami, who was at the back, screamed. Everyone immediately turned to look at Nami and saw her trembling in the water. Qiao Shika's expression changed. Not good. She encountered an electric eel. Then Nami raised her arm, and in her hand was an electric eel that was as thick as an arm and about 15 kilograms. We have an extra meal tonight. Ah, such a strong voltage. Qiao Shika stared at Nami in astonishment. This was an adult electric eel, and its voltage could reach 800 volts. But Nami only twitched slightly, and there was no intense electric shock. Could it be that this woman has undergone electric shock training? Chapter 1377. Nami casually tossed the electric eel at them. Klaus's military knife flashed, and the electric eel's head was instantly cut off. It fell to the ground and rolled a few times before it stopped moving. Qiao Shika looked at Klaus in surprise. What a fast speed, what an accurate blade. Feel around in the water again. Eat more tonight, Klaus said. Then the other members of the lightning squad continued to feel around in the water. Qiao Shika saw a member of the lightning squad. Without looking into the water, he stabbed the wooden stick in his hand into the water, and a catfish weighing more than 10 kilograms was lifted up. How did you do that? Qiao Shika asked in surprise. As long as there's enough tactile training. The catfish swam past his feet, so he could judge in advance. His success rate is around 60%. Captain, it's not 60%. My current success rate is... The member stabbed the wooden stick into the water again, and 2 piranhas were skewered on the stick. 100%. All right, I know you're good, Klaus scolded with a smile. Suddenly, The military knife in Klaus's hand shot into the forest. Qiao Shika looked at Klaus in confusion. Then she saw the military knife nail a lizard's head to a tree. Hiss! Qiao Shika gasped. They were about 20 meters away, and the color of the lizard's body completely blended in with the dark gray of the tree. Plus, it was already a little dark. How could he hit it? Was it a coincidence? The lizard was 1 meter long, and its body was quite thick. Klaus walked up and picked up the lizard. Not bad, this is a caiman lizard. Caiman lizards were not related to caimans. They were called caiman lizards because they looked like crocodiles. This thing was an endangered species. If Klaus had seen it in public, he would probably have been sent to jail. But in this environment, they could not waste anything that could be eaten. Although they had brought compressed biscuits, they were emergency food and they did not taste good. Compressed biscuits were high in calories and they were easy to carry and store. The team did not plan to continue forward and they set up camp. Qiao Shika was also getting to know each member of the lightning squad. Without a doubt, they were all elites, but they were not very familiar with the tropical rainforest. But their physical qualities were very outstanding. Moreover, all of them had exquisite skills. Nami will be on duty for the first half of the night, and I will be on duty for the second half of the night, Klaus said while eating. Qiao Shika glanced at Klaus. Klaus, it's too tiring to be on duty alone for half a night. No, they can. Klaus did not give Qiao Shika a chance to question him further. After dinner, everyone except Nami went into the tent. In such an extreme environment, it was impossible for them to find entertainment, and they could not afford to waste every second of rest. Qiao Shika slept until dawn. When she woke up, she smelled blood as soon as she stepped out of the tent. Something happened last night. Qiao Shika's heart tightened. He turned around and saw a few people sitting in front of the fire. A dismembered jaguar was hanging from a tree. Their camp was attacked last night, but when did this happen? Why was there no movement at all? A jaguar attacking the camp would definitely cause quite a commotion. Did he sleep too soundly? Damn it, I haven't been in a dangerous area for too long. I'm actually so lax. Qiao Shika, come and have breakfast. We should continue our journey after that. Give me a bowl of bone soup. I cooked it all night, Klaus said. Klaus, I'm sorry. I had no idea what happened last night. Qiao Shika felt that he had neglected his duty. Even if there were no casualties, it was completely irresponsible for him to sleep so soundly in such an environment. It's okay. I don't know either. Nami killed it. Klaus smiled. I only woke up when it was my turn to be on duty. Qiao Shika gasped again. Did Nami kill the jaguar alone? Nami, you didn't use a gun. I was afraid of disturbing your rest, Nami said calmly. Qiao Shika did not understand where Nami's confidence came from. This was not a medium-sized carnivore like a puma. Jaguars were large carnivores. At the same time, they were the most dangerous predators on the American continent. They even preyed on crocodiles. If they were to widen the distance and use a gun, Qiao Shika had a certain degree of confidence. But without a gun, Qiao Shika definitely did not dare to go against an adult jaguar. Nami was not tall. In fact, she could be considered small. She was only 61 meters tall. How could she dare to go against a 250-kilogram jaguar? Everyone started packing their bags and tents. In just 15 minutes, they packed everything and continued their journey. Klaus, is Nami the strongest in the team? Qiao Shika purposely widened the distance between the team and walked at the back with Klaus. However, the people in front had clear ears. They could all hear Qiao Shika's words. Of course, no one would laugh at Qiao Shika's question. Yes, she's very strong. Klaus smiled. At noon it rained again. For the lightning squad, the rain came at the right time. But it was not good for Qiao Shika. She did not have the superhuman constitution of the lightning squad. The rain made her a little cold. Fortunately, they had brought some medicine. Qin Zhao had made it for everyone in the society. It was quite effective. "Captain, there's a big river ahead," the people in front shouted. Klaus walked to the river and looked. It was at least 150 meters wide. The current was around 3 meters per second. It was not rapid, but the water could be more than 3 meters deep. Crocodiles. Klaus saw a few crocodiles lying on the shore a few hundred meters away. If there was one crocodile on the shore, there could be 10 in the water. What do we do? Cross the river on a raft? Qiao Shika asked. No need. Klaus shook his head. Just swim past me. The others prepare for underwater combat. Qiao Shika was dumbfounded. What underwater combat? They were facing crocodiles, not humans. How could they fight crocodiles underwater? Was Klaus crazy? But the problem was, why didn't anyone refute Klaus's orders? Qiao Shika felt that this was suicide. Once surrounded by the crocodiles, none of them would survive. Let's go, Klaus said. We'll go underwater first. Just follow behind me. Don't worry about anything else. Chapter 1378. Halfway through, Qiao Shika suddenly saw red blood floating on the surface of the water. Klaus, something happened, something happened. Something happened underwater. Keep swimming, don't look around. Klaus continued swimming in front. Qiao Shika wanted to help, but she didn't know how to help in the water, so she could only continue swimming. Qiao Shika followed Klaus to the other side. Qiao Shika immediately raised her submachine gun and looked at the water nervously. Don't shoot randomly. It's not good if you hurt your own people, Klaus said calmly. Just then, Nami was the first to stand in the shallow water, but she was dragging something in her hand. A crocodile. It was a 3-meter-long crocodile. The crocodile wasn't dead, but Nami was grabbing its upper and lower jaws and dragging it to the shore. This scene completely subverted Qiao Shika's worldview. This must be fake, right? This must have been prepared beforehand. Nami actually caught a crocodile alive in the water. Just then, another thing floated up. This time it was a crocodile with its stomach turned upside down. However, this crocodile's stomach was completely cut open. Then another crocodile floated up, and another and another. Then the members of the lightning team came ashore one after another. No one was injured, and everyone was holding a military knife. Nami, why did you catch it alive? I want to eat crocodile tonight. If crocodile meat isn't processed in time, it will go bad in 3 hours, Nami said. Qiao Shika was completely crazy. To eat crocodile meat tonight, they went into the water and caught a crocodile alive? Also, did these people really kill crocodiles underwater? There were 4 or 5 crocodiles that floated up, so it was possible that more crocodiles were washed away before they could float up. Other than Klaus, the 5 of them probably killed no less than 20 crocodiles, right? What was going on with these guys? Let it go, let it go. It's only noon. Are you planning to carry this 200-kilogram crocodile all the way? Klaus shouted. I'll carry it. I don't have to be on duty tonight anyway, Nami said in a defiant tone. Qiao Shika felt that even if she carried this 200-kilogram crocodile, it would be a burden. At least 3 people would need to carry it, right? But reality was not what she thought. Nami found a rope and tied the crocodile's mouth. Then she grabbed the crocodile and put it on her shoulder. Don't eat my crocodile meat if you dare, Nami said angrily. Forget it, I'll do it. He was the strongest in the team, more than twice as strong as Nami. Who were these people? A bunch of monsters. The way Qiao Shika looked at them changed. Let's go. Let's continue forward. Klaus did not hesitate to release the crocodile. Qiao Shika looked at Temmie's carrying a 200-kilogram crocodile and didn't feel tired at all. She even felt that he walked more easily than she did. He was still talking and laughing with his teammates. It wasn't until the evening that everyone found an empty space to rest. Qiao Shika deeply felt that these people were truly monstrous existences. Not just Nami, but everyone. Klaus, I'm on duty tonight too, Chowshika volunteered. Sure. You and Temmys will be responsible for the first half of the night. Rodman will be responsible for the second half. Chowshika felt Klaus' discrimination again. Everyone else was on duty alone, but she had Temmys with her. No, more accurately, Temmys was with her. The big Temmys didn't care. Chowshika, if you're tired at night, you can sleep first. Temmys was a bit stubborn. If it was someone else, they would never say this to Chowshika. Chowshika decided on the spot that she had to complete her duty tonight. After nightfall, everyone started to rest. Temmys and Chowshika sat in front of the fire. Temmys, is everyone in your lightning team so strong? It's mainly because our boss's boss is strong. Is this the boss Klaus mentioned? Yes, the boss always says that if he's a lion, his subordinates can't be a flock of sheep, Temmys said. Is your boss on a mission somewhere else now? No, he hasn't been out recently. His girlfriend is about to give birth. Temmys suddenly frowned and stood up. Chowshika's expression changed slightly. She saw specks of green light in the forest in front of her. Wolves! Wolves! Chowshika immediately picked up her gun, intending to wake the others. Don't be nervous, Temmys said. You guard here. If a wolf comes, shoot. Don't leave the camp. But Chowshika wanted to refute Temmys, but Temmys had already strode forward and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Then the howls of wolves came from the darkness. Chowshika was very nervous. She kept staring into the darkness. Other than the sound, she couldn't see anything. She didn't know what was going on over there. Temmys is so strong. He'll be fine. Chowshika comforted herself. But in such an environment, encountering a wolf pack was the most dangerous. Unlike the wolves in North America, most of North America was a relatively open area with a wider population. Wolf packs couldn't grow, but forest wolves were different. For example, the wolves in the Amazon rainforest were very large. They might even encounter a large wolf pack of 50 or 60. What should I do? Should I wake Klaus and the others? Suddenly, a wolf charged toward the camp. Chowshika immediately fired. Da-da-da. The wolf ran for a few meters and fell in front of Chowshika. Just then, a person came out of the tent. Klaus walked out. What happened? Wolves. Wolves. Temmys went over. I'm afraid. Oh, wolf pack. Klaus found a glass of water and rinsed his mouth. Since you're up, let's have a midnight snack. Klaus, aren't you going to help Temmys? What for? Isn't he back? Chowshika turned and saw that Temmys had returned. He was carrying a gray wolf that was more than 2 meters long. Just then, Rodman came out of the tent. That's great. We have a midnight snack when we wake up. Rodman also looked calm. It was as if Temmys had taken the initiative to attack the wolves. It was completely unimportant. Temmys, you didn't hurt yourself, did you? Chowshika asked Temmys, who was covered in blood. Oh no, this is wolf blood, Temmys said. Eat some roasted wolf meat and go rest. Temmys, did you kill all the wolves just now? Rodman asked. Chapter 1379. 2 days. The lightning squad had only used 2 days to teach Chowshika what it meant to be at the top. Chowshika knew that Klaus was very powerful. Back then, Klaus had been their captain. But at that time, Klaus was only very powerful. Although they kept in touch, they were still separated for many years. From then on, Chowshika always felt that their team was a top team. But now, when he saw Klaus again, Chowshika suddenly realized that they seemed to be out of touch with the top. The Lightning Squad was the true top team. Every single member of the Lightning Squad was ridiculously strong. A 7-meter-long water, venomous serpent had wrapped itself around Klaus. The others were holding their stopwatches to bet on whether it would be 10 or 20 seconds before Klaus could escape. They had no intention of helping. Then Klaus bets himself for a minute while he fights the water bug. After that, Klaus held on for a minute before he calmly pulled out his military knife and chopped off the water gloom's head. They weren't adventuring in the jungle. They were playing. So far, at least, they have been playing. In the primeval forest, the water dragon and the god of death had the same meaning. Those who were entangled by the water serpent basically had one foot in the gates of hell. But Klaus was actually trying to compete in strength with a water gloom. Of course, to their team, this was just a small interlude. Everyone rested for half an hour at noon. Xiao Shika knew that everyone was taking care of her. In fact, she was the only one in the team who felt tired and could not walk. Up until now, Xiao Shika was the only one who had fired a gun. Most of the time, the lightning squad used their sabers to deal with trouble. When the break time was up, Klaus stood up and said, "Let's check the direction again." Nami held the locator, but it seemed to be interfered with. The numbers kept jumping. Nami frowned and switched to an ordinary compass, but the needle of the compass was also jumping randomly. "Captain, there's magnetic field interference here." In the primeval forest, positioning was very important. Once they lost the positioning of the machines, they could only rely on the stars to locate them. However, most of the time, they were covered by the towering trees and thick leaves. It was very difficult for them to see the sun. "Check if the communication device is working," Klaus said. "I can't receive the satellite signal. The radio equipment is also not working. Looks like we might be in trouble." Klaus said, "Continue forward for another 20 kilometers and see if we can get out of this interference zone." Suddenly, a wooden splinter was nailed into the tree in front of Klaus. Enemy attack. In just 0.1 seconds, Klaus had already pulled Xiaoshika, who was still in a daze, to the ground. "Temis, check your front left." The arrow came from that direction. In the direction that Klaus was pointing at, there were faint figures moving about. "Use firearms," Klaus said. Da-da-da, a figure fell from the treetops. It was an extremely primitive native with leaves draped over its body and a feathered crown on its head. It was less than 5 meters tall. Woola, woola. Then a strange cry came from the forest. Dozens of figures rushed out of the forest, holding wooden spears or crudely made wooden bows. Some were even using blowpipes. "Cannibals! They're cannibals!" Jazik shouted. She saw one of the primitive men holding the skull and hitting it with a wooden stick, making a sound. This seemed to be their battle song. The primitive people recklessly charged towards the troops. Free fire! It was a one-sided massacre. Of course, this battle itself was not a righteous one. Even with the restrictions of the international treaty, Klaus had no choice but to give the order to shoot the natives of these primitive tribes. Although their weapons were very primitive, they were all smeared with poison. Da-da-da! Everyone opened fire, and the natives fell one after another. The battle lasted for a few minutes. "Is anyone hurt?" "Captain, I'm hurt." Rodman's expression was a little ugly. His right arm was hanging limply with an arrow stuck in it. "Poison, dart frog poison." Jazik's expression was even uglier. This meant that Rodman could very likely die from the poison in a few minutes. "Lie down." Klaus rushed to Rodman's side. "Furlough, take out the life-saving medicine." Furlough immediately opened his backpack and quickly took out a bottle of black medicine and a syringe, tossing them to Klaus. Klaus caught the syringe and directly injected it into Rodman's arm. Wah! Rodman started to vomit out large mouthfuls of filth. Everyone knew how terrifying the poison of the poison dart frog was. Chen Zhao had said that the black medicine was a life-saving medicine, but they were not very confident. If one was heavily injured, poisoned, or seriously ill, they could all use the black medicine. Rodman kept vomiting. After vomiting out all the food, he started vomiting stomach acid. After vomiting, he started retching. Jazik was also very nervous. What surprised her was that more than 10 minutes had passed and Rodman was still alive. What was that medicine? Could it really cure the poison of the poison dart frog? At the same time, Klaus was also constantly squeezing Rodman's wound, only stopping when red blood flowed out of the wound. "How is it, Rodman? If you're still conscious, answer me." Klaus patted Rodman's cheek. "Captain, if you're gentler, I'll answer you. Whoosh." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that Rodman could joke. His tone was weak, but it was still coherent. "Nami, Temis, go check the bodies of the natives. Be careful not to fake death." After checking, they realized that all the natives were dead. However, they could not stay here for long. Even though Rodman was very weak now, they had to find another place to rest. They had to find a place with an open field of vision. Otherwise, they would be easily attacked again. This is a large tribe. After all, there are less than 100,000 primitive natives in the entire Amazon rainforest. Usually, a tribe has no more than 100 people. However, this cannibal tribe actually sent dozens of people to attack us. This can only mean that there are more than 1,000 people in the tribe. A primitive tribe with more than 1,000 people in the Amazon rainforest? "Not yet," Jazik said with a serious expression. Xiao Shika said with a serious expression. "There's another possibility. Those who found them have already been eaten by them. I think it's because of the magnetic field nearby. That's why they can hide here for so long without being discovered." Chapter 1380. They didn't know if the place they chose was safe. Rodman hadn't recovered from his injuries yet. Even with the black potion, Rodman had been poisoned by the poison of the poison dart frog. It was a miracle that he didn't die. Xiao Shika was even more worried about her companion. She thought it was just an ordinary native tribe. But now, it seemed that her companion had encountered this ogre tribe. This ogre tribe was not only powerful, but also barbaric. It had to be known that there were many primitive tribes left, and some of them were actually ogre tribes. But after coming into contact with modern human civilization, these tribes had given up on their traditions. But now they had encountered a tribe that cut off all contact with human society. This meant that they couldn't communicate with them. Under the night sky, Klaus said, "I've decided to explore tonight." "Klaus, isn't this too risky?" "Exploring at night is the best choice," Klaus replied calmly. "No matter how barbaric and bloodthirsty they are still humans, so the night is more advantageous for us." Originally, Klaus planned to have Xiao Shika stay in the camp and have Nami stay with her. But Xiao Shika wasn't happy about this, so Klaus decided to work together. Xiao Shika wasn't a child after all. She had rich combat experience. But in the past 2 or 3 days, Xiao Shika had always compared herself to the members of the Lightning Team, which hurt her confidence. In fact, she wasn't weak at all. They started to look for traces of the ogres. Such a large ogre tribe would leave more obvious traces than the 7 of them. So Klaus quickly found traces of the ogre tribe. There's drumming in front. The group parted the dense thickets and saw an Inca pyramid in front of them. The pyramid was about 100 meters tall, like a giant Lego toy. It was hard to imagine that it was built by a group of primitive people. A large number of ogres gathered in front of the pyramid. They danced to the sound of the drumming. To be honest, this was a group of natives with no musical talent. In comparison, they were more talented when it came to eating. Among the natives, there were 4 steaming cauldrons. But when they saw the food in the 4 cauldrons, their faces turned green. There were more than 10 people in the 4 cauldrons, both men and women. At this moment, they had already lost their lives. They were like livestock that had their stomachs cut open and their innards cleaned out. Ugh, everyone felt nauseous. This was a resistance that came from the genetic depths of modern humans. Humans do not eat their own kind or similar species because they know that eating their own kind is very risky. Putting aside emotions and ethics, humans were definitely unable to accept their own kind. Even for primates, humans were very resistant to it. This was because almost all primates would get the right disease and transmit it to humans. This was a warning from the genes. Xiao Shika's face was already covered in tears because she saw a familiar face. However, she still kept her wits about her and knew that she couldn't let her act willfully at this time. Klaus and the Lightning Squad were also her comrades. Then, an even more cruel scene appeared in front of them. Even the iron-willed members of the Lightning Squad were avoiding this scene. However, they also discovered a strange phenomenon. In the process of cannibalism, all the members of the cannibal tribe participated, including the babies. As for the babies and children, they didn't have parents to lead them. They were more like the cubs of a wolf pack, selectively eating their own food. Did you guys notice something strange? Klaus said in a low voice, "Those brats who managed to snatch the food, they have obvious growth. They're growing too fast. They're starting to go back to their nests to rest." The cannibals started to enter the pyramid. The entire pyramid was like a beehive. Only a small number of cannibals were left guarding the outside of the pyramid. This was an opportunity, a chance for them to sneak into the pyramid. Although the cannibals outside were patrolling, there were many loopholes. After silently killing 2 cannibals, the group came to the side of the pyramid. Klaus suddenly stopped Xiao Shika. "Xiao Shika, this might be a trap." "What?" "I don't know, but I feel that the situation is different from what I expected. I still don't understand." "Leave this place now and follow the path we took to get here. Wait at the campsite we stayed at before. If we don't come back before dawn, leave the forest immediately and call our boss's phone number. Ask our boss to save us." "What? You want me to run away alone?" Xiao Shika's expression was very ugly. Klaus wanted her to be a deserter. "Xiao Shika, you should understand that if everything goes well, we have a chance to find the people and bring them back. It doesn't matter whether you're here or not. But if things don't go well, I'm afraid we have to choose the backup plan. If we wait for 15 days according to the original plan, I'm afraid we won't last that long. So you're our hope." Klaus looked at Xiao Shika seriously. Xiao Shika looked up at Klaus. "Must I leave?" "Because we're not sure," Klaus said. Klaus said, "You've seen the strength of Lightning Team. We don't have the confidence, so we have to be careful and prepare this backup plan. We cleared most of the dangers along the way, so it won't be hard for you to walk out of the forest." Xiao Shika was silent for a while and finally agreed to Klaus's suggestion. She had no reason to stay. Klaus had said that they had reinforcements and they were strong. Each of them was stronger than her. If their enemies couldn't withstand a single blow, then she could choose to stay and enjoy the joy of victory with everyone. But if they were in trouble, then Xiao Shika had to shoulder her responsibility. Her duty wasn't to fight, but to ask for help. Later, no matter what kind of battle happens, don't come in. All you have to do is say, "Wait patiently." Chapter 1381. Xiao Shika didn't leave immediately. Instead, she hid in the bushes and observed the situation. The battle inside the pyramid soon started. First, there were intense gunshots and explosions. Xiao Shika was hesitant. After all, she was the one who found Klaus. But now Klaus and the Lightning Team stayed while she left. This was very immoral. However, she also knew that she would only be a burden if she stayed. She wouldn't be effective, but Klaus and the others didn't mind. Did you guys realize that this place is very similar to the Crypt Demon's nest? Not just similar, Nami said. It's exactly the same. They were already very familiar with the Crypt Demon's nest. Because of Qin Zhao and the Crypt Demons, they often went in and out of the nest. The pyramid of the Crypt Demon's nest was exactly the same as the one before them. However, the pyramid of the cannibals was much smaller than the Crypt Demon's pyramid. If the specifications and structure are the same, Klaus said in confusion, this pyramid should be bigger than the one we saw. Just then, a group of cannibals charged out. Nami accurately threw a grenade into the group of cannibals. Boom! Instantly, all the cannibals were annihilated. However, they didn't have a lot of ammo. After all, they couldn't carry too much ammo. Therefore, every bullet and grenade they had was extremely precious. Once they ran out of ammo, they wouldn't lose the ability to fight. Instead, it would put them in danger. In the end, they were here to save people. It wasn't a sacrifice. Although there was a famous movie in Hollywood, saving the soldiers was very great and touching. But Klaus definitely wouldn't use his subordinates' lives to save friends. All their efforts now were based on ensuring their own safety. If Kamalari is in the crypt demon's nest now, where do you think he'll hide if he wants to stay alive? Klaus made a guess. It's definitely impossible up there, Nami said. The higher up, the smaller the space and the more crypt demons there will be, so he can only be down there. Right down there. Klaus suddenly thought of a possibility. If this pyramid and the Crypt Fiend's pyramid are products of the same era, then there's no reason for the two to have such a huge difference in specifications. The same design should have the same specifications, right? So can we think that this cannibal pyramid actually has a lower layer, but because of tens of thousands of years, the lower layer has sunk into the ground? Left. I remember the lower level of the Crypt Demon Pyramid is in that direction. Nami said, "There's a secret door over there. When I went to the Crypt Demon lair last time, I personally operated it." "That means the cannibals don't know the way to the lower levels," Klaus said. "It's more likely that the cannibals weren't the ones who built the pyramids. They might have taken over the pyramids." After exterminating a group of cannibals, Nami controlled the mechanism and opened the passage. Just as Klaus had guessed, the cannibals were completely unaware of the existence of this mechanism and the passage. After everyone entered the tunnel, Nami closed the tunnel again. At this moment, everyone heard a sound of movement. Klaus gestured for everyone to switch off the light. It was the footsteps of a man, not a cannibal. He should be about the same height as Temmie's, but he felt a little weak. This person had only approached after hearing the noise. Suddenly, the man felt a heavy blow on his face. Then, a strong hand grabbed him and pressed him against the wall. "Ah, don't eat me! Don't eat me!" The man screamed in terror. "Jim? Is that Jim?" Klaus asked. "Then you're not cannibals. Who are you talking about?" Jim asked in terror. He didn't recognize Klaus' voice. "Who's me? I'm talking about Klaus." Klaus turned on the light. Jim stared at Klaus, stunned. "Klaus? That's Klaus? Why are you here?" "Jazuko asked me to save you," Klaus said. "Great, you said you were going to save me. I've had enough of this place. The darkness, emptiness, despair, and hunger. Do you know how I survived these days? I could only catch rats to eat." Jim cried tears of joy. He was so excited that he was finally saved. "Where's Kamalari?" "Him? He was captured on the first day we found this place. He should have been eaten by the cannibals long ago." "No, Jazuko said that she's been communicating with Kamalari for the past few days." "That's impossible," Jim shouted. "I saw Kamalari being captured by the cannibals with my own eyes." For a moment, the problem became complicated. Of course, there was a simple explanation. Was Jazuko lying to them? But emotionally, they didn't believe that Jazuko was lying to them, because betrayal was the most intolerable thing in the world. But now wasn't the time to make a conclusion. "Captain, don't be suspicious of Jazuko. She doesn't have the motive," Nami said. "Are you sure?" "Now there are three possibilities. One is that Mr. Jim is lying." I'm not lying." "Of course, this possibility is the lowest," Nami said. "The second possibility is what everyone guessed. Jazuko is the real culprit, but I think this possibility is very low. I don't think Jazuko is lying." "Why?" "Because of the third possibility," Nami said. "After seeing the cannibals here, I've been guessing. Actually, I suspected Jazuko before." "You suspected Xiaoshika before?" "That's right. I had my doubts until I met Mr. Jim." "Then why didn't you tell us?" "Because it wasn't necessary," Nami said disapprovingly. "First, I wasn't sure if I was right. Second, even if she really was the traitor and contacted our president, she would be the one in trouble. Of course, after seeing Mr. Jim and hearing about the situation here, I'm even more sure that Jaziko isn't a traitor. She only said that she was tricked. What exactly happened? Everyone couldn't help but ask. There's no traitor. Chapter 1382. First of all, I thought about a problem. Such a large area of magnetic field interference. I originally thought that it was natural, but the natural magnetic field would not have such a strong electromagnetic reaction. Even the sabers we carry are magnetized, so I suspect that it is a man-made strong magnetic field, Nami said. Everyone was in a trance. They didn't notice this, and they had been to some special areas before where strong magnetic fields also occurred, so they didn't take it to heart. Besides, we've been walking for 2.5 days, and the nearest populated place is no more than 150 kilometers away. It's impossible for these cannibals to be so close and completely isolated from the world. So I suspect that someone has already discovered this place, and even has some kind of connection with the cannibals to help them hide the secret. Maybe this person is the real culprit behind all this, and someone deliberately led you here. At the same time, after they caught Kamalali, they didn't kill him immediately, but used him to send a message to Chowshika, asking her to find more prey. Nami paused and said, "There's another important reason why I said that Chowshika is not a suspect. This place is surrounded by a magnetic field, and radio and satellite phones can't be used. If Chowshika arranged all this, why would she set up such an obvious trap? It can only be because she doesn't know the situation here at all." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that they had fallen into a trap. But after hearing that Chowshika was not a suspect, everyone was relieved. After all, everyone got along well with Chowshika, and they had a good impression of her. They didn't want someone they had been getting along well with to be an enemy. There's another piece of evidence. I found human bones outside that were discarded after being eaten. Many of them were 30 or 40 years old, but there were no bones older than 30 years old. This means that the cannibals may have only appeared here 30 or 40 years ago. Nami continued, "It's possible that someone moved them here and then attracted explorers and adventurers from the outside world to get enough food to feed the cannibals. New Bali Town, which is the closest to this place, is a gathering place for mercenaries and explorers, and it's full of illegal immigrants. Even if the cannibals disappear, the government won't notice them. However, their complicated interpersonal relationships can attract more outsiders, and the real culprit behind the scenes will lure people in." Jim's scalp went numb. In other words, we were all lured in here to be meat for the cannibals. You could say that. Then what should we do? Klaus, can you take me out? Let's wait, Klaus said helplessly. I hope Chowshika can leave the forest safely. She will definitely be able to leave safely. Nami said, "We've eliminated all the dangers along the way. There won't be anything that can pose too much of a threat to her in the short term. Secondly, whether she's the real culprit or not, she can leave safely. If she's not, then the real culprit hopes that she can attract more people. If she is, it'll be even easier for her to leave. Klaus, why aren't you guys nervous at all? Even if Chowshika can leave safely, she'll only attract more people here, and it won't change our situation at all. Maybe I need to worry about other things, but there's no need to worry about this at all. Just stay here for a few days. Add some powder from demon bones, Samatha. Add some demon blood, Kasama. Scales of deep-sea staghorn fish, Sahara. Morid kept chanting incantations in the laboratory, adding every ingredient with extreme care. In front of Morid there was a container. In addition to various magic materials, there was also a green plant in the middle of the container. With the addition of various magic materials and Morid chanting an incantation, the turquoise plant began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. When it reached 30 centimeters, it withered, leaving only a seed floating in the liquid. But it repeated the process again. Germination, growth, wither, and so on. Moore leaned against the window, watching Morid's experiment in the laboratory. He was Morid's best friend in the association, and could be considered Morad's little follower. He admired and admired Morad for becoming the second person to pass the first level of the Tower of Trials other than the Association's Big Three. Ever since Morad achieved this, he had been working even harder. He put more energy into training, improving magic plants, and improving his own strength. "Ha! I did it, Morad suddenly shouted excitedly. The original emerald green plant had turned into a silvery white plant that was several meters tall. There were a dozen fist-sized white fruits hanging on the silver-white plant. "Morad, what are you cultivating now?" "Hand of Iago." "I know. In Norse mythology, Iago is the god of the forest. But what effect does this hand of Iago have?" In Norse mythology, Iago is the son of the goddess of the four seasons. He controls the elements of the four seasons and herds all the forests in the world. The hand of Iago I made is the winter banisher. Morad plucked a white fruit from the silver-white plant and peeled it, revealing the seeds inside. Let me see the effect." "Go outside." Morad put away all the fruits. He had spent a whole 3 months to make them. He had spent about $300,000 on research and experiments, so Morad did not dare to waste anything. Each fruit had about 100 seeds, and Mor helped to harvest the seeds. The two came to an empty space outside. Morad took out a seed and chanted an incantation. The seed fell to the ground. Cold sweat began to appear on Morad's forehead. The seed quickly sprouted, and soon grew to a height of nearly 5 meters. But the tree did not bear fruit. But the temperature around it began to plummet. The treetops swayed gently and snow began to fall. A few meters around it was covered in a layer of frost. Then 3 snowmen stood up from the snow. "What's the use of these 3 snowmen?" "They look so weak," Mor said, puzzled. The 3 snowmen shook, and the snow fell, turning into 3 ice crystal people. Chapter 1383. The 3 winter exiles had ice bodies and weren't afraid of death. They weren't alive. They were formed by gathering frost. Morad only said that he had a rough estimate of his magic power. If he ate Iago's hand, he would need a lot of magic power. With his magic power, he could only release 10 seeds at once. Just then, Chun Zhao's car drove into the headquarters. Morad and Mor saw Chun Zhao and immediately went to greet him. "President, why are you here?" Morad asked. "Who wants to go to the Amazon rainforest?" Chun Zhao asked. "Why are we going to the rainforest?" Mor asked confusedly. "To play and visit Klaus and the others." Not long ago, Chun Zhao had received a call from Brazil. The Amazon. "I'll go," Morad said. "There are many magic plants in the Amazon. We can go there and find some seeds." "I'll go too," Mor said. Chun Zhao entered the association again and asked the people there. Only Jalanash wanted to go. She didn't want to miss all the fighting opportunities. As for the others, they either had something else to do or didn't want to go. Thus, only Morad, Mor, and Jalanash followed Chun Zhao. The 4 hurried to Brazil. When they landed, a tall woman greeted them. "Hi, I'm Xiao Shika. You're the companions that Klaus mentioned?" Xiao Shika wondered if she'd picked up the wrong person or said the wrong person. Chun Zhao was dressed in colorful clothes. He wore a straw hat and shorts and looked like he was here for a vacation. There were also 3 people behind him. The oldest was probably in his early 20s, and the other was a teenager. Were they really here for a vacation? Yeah. Chun Zhao nodded. "What's Klaus' situation now?" Xiao Shika told him the whole story. "Cannibals? I've never seen cannibals before. I made the right choice." Mor was like a big kid. His face was filled with joy. Xiao Shika was still full of doubts. Could this 4-man team really save Klaus and the others? "Do you know what delicacies Brazil has?" Chun Zhao asked. Xiao Shika was speechless. "I don't know," Xiao Shika said, a bit angry. She felt that Kaz had trusted the wrong person. "Guild leader, after we rescue Klaus, how about we play here for a few days?" You guys have fun, I'm going back. Fela had to go into labor less than 20 days after giving birth. If there was any premature labor, she might miss it. Therefore, Qin Zhao actually didn't want to go far. If not for saving people, he wouldn't even want to come to Brazil. It took nearly a day to get from the airport to Nilmara City, and more than half a day to drive to New Bari town. Mr. Qin, what do you need to prepare? Take this opportunity to prepare. We'll be entering the rainforest tomorrow. I don't need anything. What do you three need? Qin Zhao looked at Morid, Moore, and Jalanash. I don't need anything. Xiao Shika was completely speechless. She had peeked at their luggage. They didn't bring any equipment for jungle exploration. Entering the tropical rainforest like this would be suicide. Mr. Qin, the Amazon rainforest is the most dangerous place in the world. Oh, I know. Chen Zhao nodded. Let's go for a walk. Xiao Shika was about to go crazy. Were they really here for a vacation? Guild leader, I found online that there's a very famous Brazilian barbecue restaurant. Let's go there. Okay. Chen Zhao looked at Xiao Shika. Ms. Xiao Shika, let's go together. Xiao Shika forced a smile. No, I still need to prepare equipment for tomorrow's rainforest. Xiao Shika was subtly reminding Chen Zhao. However, Chen Zhao and the others didn't seem to understand what Xiao Shika was implying. They were still excitedly thinking about where to eat and play later. Xiao Shika didn't follow Chen Zhao out. Chen Zhao brought Morid, Moore, and Jalanash to the barbecue restaurant. There were quite a lot of people in the restaurant. There were even a dozen or so people gathered together, talking about something. Just then, a white-bearded old man walked over. Guys, you're here to play, right? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Let me introduce myself. I'm Naba. I'm the best guide here. If you want to enter the rainforest, I can take you to see the true face of the rainforest. Naba said, do you want to join my team? My fees are very cheap. I'll leave when we have 20 people. Thanks, but no need. We have our own guide. Normal guides can only take you 10 kilometers into the rainforest at most, but I can take you deeper. Don't you want to see the real side of the Amazon rainforest? You must have come from very far away. Forget it. Chen Zhao rejected again. We have our own plans. Are you really not going to consider it? Look at me. I've already found a dozen. If everything goes well, we'll leave tomorrow. Chen Zhao still shook his head. The rainforest is so dangerous. I don't think it's interesting to go deep. All right, I wish you all a good time. Naba said with a mocking tone and a bit of displeasure. The barbecue shop assistant served the barbecue meat to the four of them. The most famous dish here was the roasted wild goat. Looking at the aromatic roasted meat, the four of them could not help but feel hungry. The four of them were satisfied. When they walked out of the restaurant, they saw Xiao Shika walk over. Ms. Xiao Shika, do you need our help? Chen Zhao saw that Xiao Shika had bought a lot of things. No. Xiao Shika turned to leave with a dark expression. After a few steps, she stopped and turned to look at Qin Zhao. Mr. Qin, I hope you can be responsible for your lives. Of course. I'm very careful with my life. Xiao Shika hoped that her warning would have some effect on the four. Unfortunately, she overestimated Chen Zhao's group. Qin Zhao's group continued to eat and play. They didn't care about the itinerary at all. Other than asking about the situation at the beginning, Qin Zhao didn't ask anymore. Xiao Shika even suspected that Qin Zhao had forgotten the purpose of his trip. The next day, Chen Zhao appeared before Xiao Shika in his colorful short-sleeved shirt, shorts, and a straw hat. Chapter 1384. The four were all empty-handed. Then they went into the rainforest. Xiao Shika couldn't stop them and could only follow behind. He thought to himself that after they suffered a little, he would chase them away. She would go save people alone, seeing how easy it was for the four of them while she had to carry dozens of kilograms. Xiao Shika was even more annoyed. Do you want me to help you? Qin Zhao asked. No need, Qiao Shika said angrily. Qiao Shika said angrily. These things were necessary, and she did not dare to give them to these four unreliable reinforcements. Mr. Qin, do you know that you're wearing such revealing clothes? Most of your skin is exposed. You might be attacked by poisonous insects or snakes. It's fine. I know. Fine? Knew what was going on. Qiao Shika couldn't tell, but Chen Zhao didn't. Chen Zhao had already made all the mistakes one could make in the rainforest. First of all, he had to wear thick clothes when he entered the rainforest. Otherwise, the insects and snakes could teach him a lesson. Second was his equipment. He didn't even bring any fresh water. He didn't even bring a water bottle. This was even worse. He also didn't have any weapons like a military knife to protect himself. Looking at Morid, Moore, and Jalanash, the three of them also didn't bring anything. Morid was still searching everywhere. Chen Zhao didn't know what he was looking for. If he was unlucky, a poisonous snake might crawl out of the bushes and kill him. After walking for 2 hours, Qiao Shika was already panting. Chun Zhao and the other three were still full of energy. I'll do it. Chen Zhao saw that Qiao Shika really couldn't walk anymore. After all, she was carrying such heavy things in such a harsh environment. Qiao Shika was also a woman. Chen Zhao didn't discriminate against women. Women's stamina was definitely not as good as men's. It was already very rare for Qiao Shika to be able to carry heavy things for 2 hours. Qiao Shika thought for a moment and didn't insist. If she kept forcing herself, she might collapse from exhaustion. But she realized that Chen Zhao's stamina was very good. He was carrying dozens of kilograms of things, but didn't feel tired at all. Do you want beer? Chen Zhao asked. Beer? Where did you get the beer? Qiao Shika asked in confusion. She didn't bring any beer, and the four of them were empty-handed. Where would they get beer? Moreover, what was the difference between drinking in the Amazon rainforest and committing suicide? Before Qiao could figure it out, Qin Zhao had already taken out a beer. Qiao Shika gulped. Clean fresh water was not easy to find in a tropical rainforest. Usually, one had to find a flowing river before they could store water. But Chen Zhao was actually drinking beer here. Beer is taboo in the rainforest. Other than the fact that beer contained alcohol, it could cause confusion in one's mind. It was also because beer could accelerate the body's circulation. Simply put, drinking a can of beer could cause excessive water loss. But watching others drink while not being able to drink was even more painful. Qiao Shika gulped a few times, but finally nodded. Give me a can. Chen Zhao tossed him a can of beer. President, I want one too, Morid said. Me too, said Moore. You can't drink. You're not an adult yet. Mr. Chen, when did you bring beer? Qiao Shika was really curious. Then Qiao Shika took a huge gulp. The beer was saying that it was too delicious. Qiao Shika felt her spirits rise. She wasn't drunk at all. At noon, the five found a place to sit down. Here, food. Qiao Shika saw what Qin Zhao had tossed over. When she caught it, she realized that it was a piece of barbecued meat wrapped in tinfoil. Qiao Shika was confused. Where did this come from? Qiao Shika was confused. But Qin Zhao clearly didn't plan on answering her. After eating and drinking, Qiao Shika was satisfied. This was probably her first time entering a rainforest so easily. Just as they were about to stand up, a jaguar blocked their way. Qiao Shika immediately took out her gun and pointed it at the jaguar. At the same time, Qiao Shika was also observing Chen Zhao's group. If they were really as strong as Klaus said, she probably wouldn't have to use a gun. This was also a chance for her to evaluate Chen Zhao's group. Chen Zhao looked at the jaguar and then walked toward it. The jaguar took 2 steps back, but it still stared at them. Chen Zhao didn't plan on attacking. Instead, he stood before the jaguar and said, "Little guy, if you don't run, we'll eat you." Chen Zhao understood animal language. To others, it sounded like human language, But in reality, beasts could understand it too. The jaguar bristled. It turned around and ran. Not only did the jaguar understand Qin Zhao's words, but it also sensed the dangerous aura from Qin Zhao. Beast senses were much stronger than humans. Qin Zhao only revealed a bit of his aura, and it was already enough to frighten the jaguar. Qiao Shika stood behind him and looked at Qin Zhao in surprise. So this guy is a zoologist. That's why he's so fearless. But can a zoologist scare a beast away with just a threat? Not long after, they came to a river. Qiao Shika had led them through this path before. She'd already gone through it once. So, she was sure that this path was safer. Of course, some dangers couldn't be eliminated. It was possible that after they passed by, another wild beast would appear and occupy this place. These were all uncertain factors. Thankfully, they didn't encounter any danger after crossing. Huh! Morid suddenly yelled in joy. Found it! I found it! What did you find? Qiao Shika saw that Morid was holding something that looked like a walnut. It's called a super exploding fruit. I know exploding fruits. What's a super exploding fruit? Is it stronger than exploding fruits? There were many plants in the Amazon rainforest that could explode, such as exploding fruits or exploding trees. But there weren't any that could really threaten humans. It can explode. The flesh of this super exploding fruit contains a lot of glycerin and phosphor. Once there's a collision or shock, the originally stable fruit will explode. There are also a lot of seeds inside, which will fly everywhere with the explosion. This is how the super exploding fruit is sown. Morid wasn't a botanist, but he was an emissary of nature. His knowledge of plants might not be less than a botanist's. Qiao Shika thought that this guy was a botanist. What's the use of this? Chapter 1385. Qiao Shika was completely speechless about Qin Zhao's group. They had all dared to put their feet into the bushes when they were defenseless. For example, they had just passed a swamp. What was most common in swamps? Poisonous snakes, of course. According to the research of authorities, there were 4 poisonous snakes per square meter in the swamps of the Amazon rainforest. Such a high ratio made explorers shy away from the swamps of the Amazon rainforest. If the Amazon rainforest was the most dangerous place on Earth, then the swamp here was the most dangerous place in the Amazon rainforest. Other than poisonous snakes, there were also many crocodiles, reticulated pythons, and poisonous insects. When Qiao Shika walked through the swamp, she had to use a rubber band to tighten her pants. However, Qin Zhao's group completely ignored the dangerous environment. However, the result shocked Qiao Shika. The 4 of them walked through the swamp unscathed. What confused Qiao Shika the most was that they had clearly come empty-handed. But it didn't matter if it was beer, drinks, or food. As long as someone needed it, Qin Zhao could take it out. This made Qiao Shika feel very awkward. She even had a water bottle hanging on her waist. She didn't know if she should throw it away. This beer is so good. Where can I buy it? I invested in a brewery to produce it. You can only buy it in Mara's supermarket in America. You invest? Are you rich? He's quite rich. Qin Zhao shrugged. Then why are you doing something so dangerous? In Qiao Shika's opinion, rich people wouldn't participate in something so dangerous. Moreover, Qiao Shika's own idea was to wait until she had saved enough money. Then she planned to quit and enjoy life. What do you mean by danger? Air! Soon, the sky began to darken. They had to stop at 4 in the afternoon to spend the night in the rainforest. If they were too late, they might not be able to finish building the tent even after dark. There's only one tent. What do we do tonight? Don't be naive enough to think that you could build a temporary shelter in the rainforest. You wouldn't even know when a snake would sneak in. Most of the so-called wilderness survival lessons on TV couldn't be used here. Qiao Shika did not dare to say that she was an expert, but at least she had dabbled in it. In the rainforest, the demand for a tent was even higher than food. If you slept on the ground, it was even more undesirable. Sleeping on the ground was equivalent to throwing a piece of meat on the ground. Tent. I do. Chun Zhao took out 4 more tents. Xiao Shika's eyes almost popped out. Where the hell did this guy hide the thing? Also, these 3 tents were all high-class tents, and each tent cost tens of thousands of dollars. The key was not the price of these 3 tents, but the fact that each of these 3 tents weighed tens of kilograms. Anything else? Xiao Shika didn't want to sleep in his own tent. Yes. Where did you hide it? Are you a magician? Xiao Shika was very curious. Huh. Yeah, I'm a magician, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. So that's how it is. You weren't unprepared, but you hid it somewhere I couldn't see. It looked magical, but Jazuko could only think of Chen Zhao as a magician. There was no other explanation. Other than that, is there anything else? Our president's stuff can be used to hold a party here, Moore said proudly. Come, let's eat and play tonight. Chen Zhao took out 2 boxes of beer. This isn't appropriate. How do we arrange for tonight's watch? Xiao Shika looked at Chen Zhao, troubled. After an entire day of tiredness, Xiao Shika obviously wanted to eat and drink tonight. But her rationality told her that now was definitely not the time to fall. Don't worry. You don't need to watch tonight. Chen Zhao casually tossed a can of beer to Xiao Shika. Xiao Shika finally convinced herself. More accurately, she gave up on her principles. He was someone Klaus trusted. He definitely had a way. It had to be like this. But why couldn't she get drunk on this beer? Just then, there was a sudden commotion in the darkness. Xiao Shika immediately tensed up. Beasts? Or cannibals? Just as Xiao Shika was about to raise her weapon, Qin Zhao shook his head. Not enemies. As soon as he said that, almost 20 people walked out of the darkness. The leader was Nabal and the tourists he'd brought into the rainforest. However, they seemed to be in a sorry state, and all of them looked listless. Xiao Shika looked at these people and quietly hid his submachine gun. These tourists were already regretting coming here. The adventure they were looking forward to wasn't as perfect as they had imagined. This was actually a journey of suffering and torment. It was impossible for people in normal society to adapt to such an environment. According to the original plan, they should have reached the designated campsite by now, but in reality they were only halfway there. As a result, they had nothing to eat, nothing to drink, and even nowhere to live. There are people here. There's food and there's even beer. That's great. This is our camp, right? When Naba walked over, he realized that it was Chun Zhao and the others. How come it's you guys? Naba looked at Qin Zhao in shock. Yesterday, he invited Qin Zhao and the others to join his team, but Qin Zhao rejected. Who would have thought that they would actually come in by themselves today? Moreover, they were living a much more comfortable life than him. Although Bonaparte claimed that he was a professional leader. But in fact, this was the first time he had done something so risky. He had entered the Amazon rainforest many times with professional teams, so he thought that he had the ability to lead a team. However, compared to a professional team, leading a group of ordinary people into the rainforest was completely different. Only now did he realize that he had been too rash. Sir, we need food, water, and tents. Narrowing his eyes, Naba looked at Chun Zhao. So what? What does that have to do with me? Qin Zhao stood up. Naba's intention was too obvious. He wanted to use their advantage in numbers to threaten Chun Zhao's group. Sir, please consider international humane standards. Many of us are already dehydrated. I can give you some beer and food. You can split it among yourselves. I can't help you with anything else. We need a place to rest. We need one too. There are only 5 of you, Naba said. Your tents are so big and nice. One tent can fit 5 people. We only need 3 tents. I refuse, Qin Zhao said indifferently. Kid, I'm afraid you don't have the right to refuse. Yellow monkey, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Chapter 1386. Bonaparte and the tourist's expressions changed immediately. Sir, have you considered the consequences? Puff! Qin Zhao punched Nabal's eye and he fell to the ground. Covering his eyes, Bonaparte stared at Chen Zhao in shock. He'd thought that Chen Zhao should be afraid of their numbers and endure. But Chen Zhao didn't retreat. Instead, he attacked directly. You seem to have gotten something wrong. The food is mine, the beer is mine, and the tent is mine too. You can beg me, but you can't threaten me. Chen Zhao raised his foot again and kicked the man who'd spoken rudely in the stomach. He dares to hit people. Do it. Another person felt that this was an opportunity, a perfectly justifiable reason to fight. The others immediately understood. Two people came up to surround Chen Zhao. Headbutt and left hook. The two fell to the ground immediately. The others still didn't give up. Chen Zhao punched them one by one. Qiao Shika watched as Chen Zhao attacked. It seemed that Chen Zhao was as strong as Klaus and the others. Go away, Chen Zhao yelled. Otherwise, I'll roast you like meat skewers. Nearly 20 people fled with their tails between their legs. They'd been able to get a meal, but because they wanted more, they didn't even have water to drink. Chen Zhao allowed them to ask for help, but he wouldn't tolerate their threats. Mr. Chen, what about the night watch? Don't worry, Chen Zhao said calmly. Just then, a wave of drunkenness washed over him. Qiao Shika suddenly felt extremely tired. In fact, it wasn't that one couldn't get drunk on Dashin beer. It was just that one would feel excited at first because it contained faint spiritual qi. However, Dashin beer contained alcohol. When it accumulated to a certain level, the alcohol's effects would start to kick in. Looks like you're a bit drunk again. Go rest. Then you'll be in charge of tonight's watch. Qiao Shika said, forcing himself to stay awake. With that, Qiao Shika swaggered away. Chen Zhao, Jalanash, Morid, and more continued eating and drinking. Those guys still don't seem satisfied. They're planning to wait until we're drunk before attacking. Once people broke away from society, their bottom line would be very low or even non-existent. Especially now that they were tired and hungry, they would become unscrupulous. They were not necessarily bad people, but because of hunger and fatigue, they compromised with their desires. I'm going to sleep, Chen Zhao said, standing up. If you want to play, don't kill people. They're just normal people. Understood, guild leader. Although there were many of them, Morid, and Jalanash could easily deal with them without using magic. The magic power also improved their bodies to a certain extent. Although it wasn't as exaggerated as an enhancement spell, it was still not something an ordinary person could compare to. At night, there was a commotion outside the tent. The next day, when Qiao Shika came out of the tent, he found that it was full of people outside. They were all the people from last night, but most of them had injuries on their faces. Some of them slept directly on the ground, while others didn't sleep at all and just sat in front of the fire. They'd wanted to take over Chen Zhao and the others' place while they were asleep and take advantage of the situation. In the end, he was taught a lesson by Morid, and Jalanash. The three young people looked like they were easy to bully, but they beat them all up. Thankfully, there was a fire in the camp. The poisonous insects and beasts had all been cleared. The three didn't intend to chase them away, so they stayed in the camp for the night. If they continued to wander in the wild at night, they might die. The next day, when everyone came out of the tent, the tourists avoided Chen Zhao's group. They didn't dare to make eye contact with Chen Zhao's group. Let's go, Chen Zhao said. Then, these tents. No, it's a waste of time to clean them up. Qiao Shika looked at Chen Zhao, stunned. Then tonight, I have more, Chen Zhao answered. Qiao Shika was completely speechless. Previously, Klaus had told her that their boss could ignore the environment here. Now it seemed that it was true. No wonder Chen Zhao's group seemed to be on vacation here. Perhaps to them, this was really just a vacation. But thinking of the cannibals, Qiao Shika felt uneasy again. There are so many cannibals. Could they really solve the problem and save Klaus and the others? Moreover, were Klaus and the others still alive? Mr. Chin, if Klaus and the others are killed, what should we do? I'll kill all the cannibals, Qin Zhao said. But Klaus and the others are very strong. Even if they can't beat them, they have a way to go around or hide. I'm confident in them. Qiao Shika wasn't too optimistic about this. Suddenly, everyone stopped in their tracks. These footprints. Qiao Shika looked at the obvious footprints on the ground. Before us, about 30 people should have passed by here. Can you tell who they are? Mercenaries, Qiao Shika said, looking at the chopped plants around them. They're the same as us. Mercenaries? Same as our destination? I'm not sure. Their route doesn't coincide with ours. Even though their route didn't coincide, they couldn't rule out the possibility that their destination was the same, because in a tropical rainforest there were no roads. Thus, every person or team would choose a different direction. For example, some people would take the risk to cross the river, while others would take a detour. Both were possible. Just then, they heard intense gunshots in front of them. Follow them and take a look, Qin Zhao said. The gunshots didn't come from far. They were probably less than 500 meters away. When they came to a river, they saw a group of mercenaries fighting with a crocodile in the water. The water was filled with blood and turbid water. The mercenaries had encountered a group of crocodiles on the river. Qiao Shika couldn't help but sigh. Compared to the lightning team, the difference was obvious. He thought back to Klaus and the others. They were completely unharmed without using guns. Even the crocodile group was just a small interlude. Nami even caught one alive. By then, someone had already reached the other side. It's him. Qiao Shika suddenly looked at the person on the other side. Do you know him? Chapter 1387. The mercenaries lost 3 people and killed a few crocodiles at the same time. Qin Zhao's group didn't appear until the mercenaries disappeared from sight. That Candace shouldn't be alive, Qiao Shika murmured to herself. He should be dead. She didn't understand and couldn't accept it. Why are you so fake? Just follow him and you'll know why. The group followed the mercenaries in front. They were very careful and kept a distance to ensure that they wouldn't be discovered. Qiao Shika had estimated their strength. They were elites. If it were Qiao Shika and her comrades, they might not have a chance against them. Plus, they had the advantage in numbers. Drink. Qin Zhao tossed a can of beer to Qiao Shika, but the can suddenly exploded in the air. Immediately, the mercenaries appeared from all directions and pointed their guns at the 5 people. Qin Zhao immediately raised his hands. Morid, Moore, and Jalanash saw his actions and could only do the same. Seeing that Qin Zhao and the others had surrendered, Qiao Shika could only raise her hands in disappointment. This made her very disappointed in Qin Zhao. She thought that Qin Zhao could turn the tide, but Qin Zhao's performance surprised her. Qin Zhao didn't even resist. He just raised his hands and surrendered. Gentlemen, tell me, who are you? The mercenary leader looked at the group. They were dressed very strangely. They didn't look like they were exploring the jungle. Instead, they looked like they were on vacation. Apart from Qiao Shika, he didn't feel any danger from the others. We're tourists, Qin Zhao quickly said. We're here to explore. This is our guide. Then why are you following us? The leader snorted coldly. Don't tell me you didn't follow us. We're lost, Qin Zhao explained. We want to find a way out. We thought that we could find the way out by following you. Then why are you so sneaky? Why don't you just come out? The mercenary leader actually believed Qin Zhao. It was mainly because they were dressed too casually. You're all holding guns. In the East, only the police and criminals would hold guns. You're definitely not the police. Haha, all the mercenaries laughed. Qin Zhao also smiled in agreement. Qiao Zaiko was the only one who didn't laugh. She kept looking at Candace. Candace stood at the back of the mercenary group. He also saw Qiao Shika and recognized his identity. but he didn't seem to want to expose it in front of everyone. Qin Zhao's clumsy performance seemed to be effective. Xiao Shika's eyes flickered. Chen Zhao's acting seemed to be able to save their lives for now, but it also made them lose the chance to save their friends. Mr. Candace, what should we do with these people? The mercenary group leader turned around and asked. To make sure they don't leak the secrets of this place, of course we have to bring them along, Candace said. Wouldn't it be better to kill them? If you think this is better, then please go ahead. Xiao Shika instantly tensed up. Qin Zhao's face twitched. Don't kill me. I'm rich. I can give you money, a lot of money. Suddenly, the mercenary group leader laughed. Ha! Of course I'm joking. Look at how scared you are. We only have one goal, and that is to find the treasure. We're not butchers. After that, you'll be free. But before that, you'd better stay by our side so that we can guarantee your safety. Oh, right. How much can you give me? $10,000. How about that? Do you think I'm stupid? 10,000 is a lot. If that's all you can give, you'll die in the Amazon rainforest. I can promise you that. 100,000, 100,000, Qin Zhao said in pain. Fine. 100,000 per person. 500,000 for the 5 of you. They have nothing to do with me. I won't pay ransom for them. You have to pay even if you don't want to, or I'll kill you right now, the mercenary group leader said viciously, pointing the muzzle at Qin Zhao's head. Xiao Shika was completely disappointed in Qin Zhao. This man was not only weak, but also stingy. He really didn't understand why Klaus respected this man so much. Then, the mercenaries brought Qin Zhao, Xiao Shika, Morid, and Jalanash along. They didn't purposely guard Qin Zhao's group. They believed that even if they escaped, they wouldn't be able to survive here. They wouldn't be able to walk out of the rainforest alive. After all, this was the most dangerous place in the world. Even now, humans couldn't completely explore this place. At noon, the group stopped to take a break. President, you're too much just now. You're actually not willing to pay our ransom, Jalanash said teasingly. Puffed, I won't pay you. Xiao Shika realized that Morid, and Jalanash didn't blame Qin Zhao at all. They were still chatting and laughing. After this short break, the group continued on their way. The group advanced quickly. That night, they'd reached the area that Klaus's group had spent 2 days to reach. At the same time, the mercenaries also discovered the magnetic disturbance here, but they seemed to have discovered it long ago. Not only were they not disappointed, they were even more excited. We're one step closer to the treasure, the mercenary leader said excitedly. But just then, a wooden spear shot out from the shadows. Enemy, attack! Fight, prepare for battle. Just like the first time Xiao Shika encountered the cannibals, dozens of cannibals attacked again. However, unlike last time, this time, after half of their people died, they all ran away. Chase them, Candace shouted. We can't let them escape. The mercenaries also knew that if they let the cannibals escape, their plan to sneak in would fail. The cannibals were very primitive, but they had a lot of people. If they were prepared, or if all the cannibals came out, the mercenaries would be in trouble. But after chasing for more than a kilometer, the cannibals disappeared. Damn, these monkeys run so fast, the mercenary leader said in disappointment. But the next moment, countless cannibals swarmed out from all directions. There were more than 10 times more than before. These cannibals were either holding bows, spears, or blowguns. In this situation, the powerful firepower of the mercenaries was greatly reduced, because the distance between them was too close. Chapter 1388. The mercenary leader was so angry that his nose was crooked. This guy was still thinking about his ransom, but he had to consider a problem now. Should he risk his life or not? So many cannibals were pointing their weapons at them. They only needed 1 round of fire to kill more than half of the mercenary group. Their weapons could only kill a few dozen cannibals at most. Just as the mercenary leader was hesitating, Candace walked up to him. Leader, we should surrender for now, Candace said. Maybe we can negotiate with them. If we surrender, can we keep our lives? The leader asked. If we resist now, we'll definitely die. But if we don't attack, we still have a chance to live. Then, I surrender, the leader said. Mr. Candace, that's what you said to my boss, right? Jazuko wasn't there, but she guessed it. She felt like she was in the scene. These cannibals actually knew how to use strategy to lure the enemy in. This was already very unusual, and now she finally understood the problem. It was all Candace's doing. Perhaps he was the real culprit and the truth behind everything. The so-called relic exploration was just a cover. Just like what he'd said to the mercenary leader, the treasure here was also a cover. You know each other? The leader asked. He felt that Jazuko was implying something else. I'm also a mercenary. Not long ago, my boss was hired by him to protect him and come here for archaeology. Then he never came out again. Now he lured you here. Jazuko stared at Candace with hatred. Mr. Candace, do you have an explanation for this? That's right. I did find another group of mercenaries, which was the mercenary group that she was in. But because their boss didn't listen to me and acted rashly, everything went to waste. Almost all of them died. I was lucky enough to escape. Candace replied calmly. That's right. Reasonable, Qin Zhao said with a smile. However, you should know the situation here. Since you know that it's impossible to defeat so many cannibals with just these people, you still came. You don't look like you're exploring. You look like you're looking to die, or you're trying to lure them, Qin Zhao said with a smile. Candace let out a long laugh. Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to make everything so embarrassing? Why can't you just pretend to be a bunch of idiots and obediently follow my steps? The mercenary leader pointed his gun at Candace. Tell them to retreat. Otherwise, I will kill you. Leader, please don't be like this. I hope that you can survive and not seek your own deaths. You still want to lie to me? The mercenary group leader roared angrily. Don't they look like a couple quarreling? Chen Zhao teased in a low voice. Jazuko glanced at Chen Zhao with his face tied up. She really didn't think it was meaningful. Shut up. At this time, the mercenary group leader's nerves were already stretched to the extreme. Any little words would cause a strong emotional fluctuation. In fact, he was already leaning towards surrendering. At the very least, he wouldn't die for the time being. Do you know why he had to persuade you to surrender? Qin Zhao said with a smile. Because if you're killed by the cannibals, you'll definitely die from the poison of the poison dart frogs. Then the corpses can't be eaten. He lured you here so that the cannibals can eat you. That's why he set this trap. Candace looked at the seemingly cowardly man in surprise. The mercenary leader's face paled. Finally, he made up his mind. Tell them to fuck off, or I'll kill you. Candace opened his arms wide and shouted loudly, Salisa Makula Dalasa. No one understood what Candace was saying, but it didn't sound like he was telling the cannibals to retreat. The cannibals raised their weapons instead. Their fighting spirit intensified. Bang! The mercenary leader finally couldn't help but shoot. However, he didn't dare to kill Candace directly. He was afraid that the situation would completely collapse, so he shot Candace's arm. The Desert Eagle's bullet hit Candace's arm, and his entire arm was blown off. But Candace's expression was calm. He didn't even look like he was in pain. Light started extending from Candace's broken arm. The light gathered into the shape of an arm. What's that? Qiao Shika was stunned. Qin Zhao reached out and stopped Qiao Shika. We should leave, he whispered. Leave. Qin Zhao picked up a stone and threw it at the cannibals with great force. Poof! A cannibal's head exploded. It was like gunpowder being ignited. The cannibals thought that the mercenaries had attacked. Then there was a conflict. No one stayed back. Just then, a wooden spear shot at Qiao Shika. Qiao Shika was shocked. She didn't react at all when she saw the spear coming. I'm dead! The next moment, a hand blocked the spear. You should be careful. Chen Zhao tossed the spear away. It's smeared with poison, dart frog poison, Qiao Shika yelled. You shouldn't have caught it with your hand. Chen Zhao chuckled. The glutton bloodline might kill him, but he definitely wouldn't die from poison. Let's go before the mercenaries all die. Qiao Shika looked back at the path they were retreating in. The two cannibals behind her suddenly fell to the ground for some reason. Qiao Shika didn't understand how they died at all, but she wasn't in the mood to investigate their cause of death. On the other hand, Chen Zhao's group of 4 left unhurriedly. Chen Zhao turned and left while whistling. Milala, Milala. Candace's hand of light pointed at Chen Zhao's group. A group of cannibals immediately chased after Chen Zhao's group. President, let's do it, Jalanash asked Chen Zhao. Okay, then we won't run. Seeing Jalanash, Qiao Shika walked forward. She was shocked. Did they still want to fight back in this situation? How? Could a delicate girl like Jalanash fight back? Jalanash raised her right arm and raised it again. Wind blew from the ground. Chapter 1389. Qiao Shika's mouth was open. She didn't know what to say or what expression to use. What's going on? What kind of ability is that? Superpower? Or magic? She couldn't understand. Jalanash's methods had already started to topple her worldview. The cannibals behind immediately rushed forward, shooting wooden spears, bows, and darts at Jalanash. Jalanash put her palms together and opened them again. 2 walls of wind formed in the middle and spread to the sides. Everything in their path was swept away. However, the use of wind-type magic in this forest was too limited. There were too many plants, so wind magic was more suitable in open spaces. Facing such an unbelievable battle, Qiao Shika was speechless. Candace raised an eyebrow. Only now did he realize that these people weren't ordinary people either. But he wasn't too worried. He was confident in the cannibals, and, of course, even more so in himself. Just then, a few natives knelt before Candace and spoke in a language he couldn't understand. It was as if they were worshipping, praying to their own gods. Candace glanced at the cannibals. Then he pointed at them with the hand of light. A beam of light shot out and landed on the first cannibal. Instantly, the cannibal turned into a combination of a human and a leopard. He looked like Agar's. However, the leopard-headed monster that the cannibal native had transformed into was not as tall as Agar's. At the same time, it did not have Agar's superb archery skills. Candace pointed at another cannibal. That one had a crocodile head and a human body. The third one had a wolf head and a human body. The fourth one had a snake head and a human body. Candace looked at Chen Zhao and the others. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not too late to surrender. Mr. Candace, honestly, Chen Zhao teased. Wouldn't it be better if you opened a zoo? Isn't that better than you now? Chen Zhao teased. Qiao Shika was speechless. How could he still be in the mood to joke in this situation? Here, I'm their god. Don't try to understand my relationship with them with your lowly way of thinking, Candace said in disdain. God, aren't you overestimating yourself? Mortal, you will never understand what kind of person I am. Then let me understand. Candace looked at Chen Zhao in silence and then started talking. He hid this secret for 40 years. This was a secret he had never told anyone. 40 years ago, I was only 20 years old, but the hospital diagnosed me with a brain tumor. Do you know how desperate I was back then? I don't know, Chen Zhao said, shrugging. But I'm interested in your despair. I decided that I didn't want to die on my sickbed, so I stepped into this primeval forest, and then I heard the voice of God. That voice called out to me and guided me here. Candace looked at the cannibals. Then I was captured by these cannibals. They threw me into boiling water and wanted to eat me. I thought I was going to die, but at that moment, a beam of light appeared and enveloped me. When I woke up again, I saw the cannibals kneeling before me. At the same time, I understood my duty. That was the first time I received the power of faith. I seemed to have turned into an omnipotent god. No, I was a real god. All the suffering in the past was just a test from God. One day, I will lead my people and become the ruler of this world. They will spread my faith. Candace looked at Qin Zhao and the others. Kneel, mortal. I will grant you supreme glory. You will receive my blessings like them. Bang! Candace's head suddenly exploded. Qin Zhao looked back at Qiao Shika. Even Qin Zhao didn't expect Qiao Shika to act so decisively and blow up the boss head with one shot. However, Candace didn't fall. He still stood where he was. In the light, his head reassembled, but it was no longer flesh and blood. Instead, it was a head made of light. Ignorant mortals, Candace said, looking at Qiao Shika. Your offense will only increase your sins. Go to hell. Go to hell. Qiao Shika fired a series of bullets from his gun. Most of the bullets landed on Candace's body, riddling it with holes. However, the body that was bound to be damaged revealed a body that was completely naked. Under his skin, there was an inner being made of light. He had long broken away from human nature. Seeing Candace's body, more cannibals knelt on the ground and prayed. This person was the god they believed in. In the past few decades, their god had continuously brought them food and strengthened their tribe. Now, they could finally see the god's body, clearly. In the eyes of the cannibals, they were the righteous ones. Stubborn fool. Candace's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. As a god, he liked people worshipping him, not offending him. The orcs who had been blessed with divine power were also unhappy that Qiao Shika had offended their god. They roared at Qiao Shika. Candace's body slowly rose into the air. The remaining skin on his body started peeling off. In the end, he turned into a body made of light. At this moment, even Qiao Shika was shaken. Could it be that they were facing a god? The natives in the light transformed one by one. They weren't thin, primitive people anymore. They all became tall. Since your power comes from faith and your believers are all cannibals, Qin Zhao asked, if I kill all your believers, will you fall from the altar? Qin Zhao asked, lowly mortal, do you think these natives are all my believers? The light on Candace's body grew brighter. More and more animals gathered around Candace. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. They are my people. They are my mouth, my eyes, my thoughts, and my will. There were wild beasts all over the mountains. They had all been summoned by Candace. My people, I will bestow upon you my blessings. Go and kill the offenders for me. Their heads will be the best gift to me. Instantly, all the beasts grew larger. They became violent, bloodthirsty, and cruel. Morid and Jalanash looked at Qin Zhao. President, you love killing gods. You can take this guy. Chapter 1390. Kill a god? Qiao Shika looked at everyone. Could this cowardly guy kill a god? Don't leave. Candace yelled. Don't even think about escaping. Dozens of orcs charged at them. Qin Zhao raised his arm and a white light flashed. The orcs were instantly turned into ashes. A 10-meter long scorch mark was left on the ground. Qiao Shika was dumbfounded. This was this man's true ability. He was highly respected by Klaus and the Lightning Team. His previous compromise was just a disguise. However, his clothes were a stark contrast to his aura. It was hard to believe that he was a warrior with his colorful clothes. Before this, I've met many idiots who call themselves gods. You're just one of them. I have countless armies and an undying body, Candace said calmly. Over the past 40 years, my followers have covered every corner of this area, including the bugs in the soil. They are all my followers. That's why I said you're too low-level, Qin Zhao said calmly. Treating bugs as believers? That's all you've got. Or your theory can only be used to trick these brainless things. Qin Zhao said indifferently. That's all you can do. President will go first, Moore said. Okay, go. After we find Klaus and the others, we'll fight alongside you. No need. Run. The further, the better. You don't need to interfere here. President, I won't be your burden, Jalanash said. I don't want to hurt you by accident, Qin Zhao said. It's best if you can escape 100 kilometers after dark. Okay, stop them. Candace ordered again. This time it wasn't just the orcs. There were also countless beasts. Qiao Shika watched as the countless beasts attacked, like a wave. Her face was pale from fear. But in the next instant, a wall appeared in front of them. It was a wall formed by thousands of swords. Qin Zhao moved his finger, and the waves were instantly defeated. Let's go. More pulled Qiao Shika, who was still in a daze. Qiao Shika suddenly came to her senses. She looked back at Chen Zhao, who was standing before them, and then left with the others. Qin Zhao stood where he was and looked at Candace with his arms crossed. Other than having a lot of believers, you don't seem to have any other use. Candace's face was green. You'll soon understand that when the number reaches a certain level, everything can be decided. But you can't stop me from killing, right? Candace charged at Chen Zhao. Qin Zhao raised his right fist and hammered. Candace's body of light dissipated in an instant, but he quickly recovered. As long as his believers were here, he would never be defeated, and his followers were definitely not limited to the ones in front of him. Just as Candace had said, everyone here was his follower. Those that flew in the sky, those that ran on the ground, those that swam in the water, and even those that drilled in the ground, were all his believers. Candace attacked Chen Zhao again. As expected, he was smashed by Chen Zhao again. You should stay where you are, Qin Zhao said calmly. Watch how I kill your people and your believers. You should stay where you are. I have an immortal body. You can stop me 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. Chen. Chen, but I haven't. Shizan. Chen. Chen Zhao had to kill all his believers to obtain the final victory. But before that, Candace could stop Qin Zhao endlessly. Their intentions were clear. However, Candace was clearly more confident than him, so he had to be more proactive. Once again, Candace charged at Chen Zhao, but this time, Qin Zhao didn't kill him. Dark lava suddenly erupted from the ground. Candace's legs were immediately covered in it. Candace instantly felt a burning pain and hurriedly retreated. The dark lava was corroding Candace's body. Candace had to use the power of faith to expel this extremely dark power from his body. Both of Candace's legs were turning black. His power of faith was constantly fighting against the power of the dark magma. Candace didn't have the mood to attack Qin Zhao anymore. He had to summon more believers to his side to provide him with faith. You demon! Candace gritted his teeth and stared at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao sneered. The dark lava started rampaging, and the Imperial Thousand Sword also displayed its terrifying destructive power. Only when believers gathered around Candace could he obtain the power of faith. Once the number of believers around him decreased, his power would weaken too. In other words, if Chen Zhao killed all of his believers, he wouldn't be able to resist the corrosion of the dark lava. Chen Zhao waved his finger. The dark lava swept across the ground and appeared below Candace. The next moment, the dark lava shot toward Candace in the sky. Candace wasn't weak, but his experience was too shallow. He couldn't compare to the experienced Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had been through countless fierce battles. The dark lava connected to Candace. Although Candace kept struggling, he couldn't break free. Of course, the dark lava couldn't corrode Candace either. It could only bind him temporarily so that he couldn't escape for a while. Qin Zhao started massacring these so-called believers on a large scale. Candace was getting more and more anxious. Seeing that there were fewer and fewer believers around him, his power also weakened. He had to expand the range and summon all the believers. Just as Qin Zhao had said, there were also differences in power among believers. If it was someone with a normal worldview and emotions The power of faith he could provide would be very high level. Of course, it was still impossible for Candace to convince a normal person to become his follower. Secondly, there were cannibals. They had normal intelligence, but didn't have a complete worldview. All their knowledge was limited to this small area. They didn't know what the outside world was like. These kinds of natives were the easiest to make. Their faith was also limited to normal people. But the disadvantage was that they didn't have many people. There were less than 1,000. Candace's biggest goal was to expand the cannibal tribe. Next were the flying beasts and the poisonous insect scaly beasts. Their power of faith was small, but they had a lot. Candace had been walking around the Amazon rainforest these years. The more places he went, the more believers he had. Of course, this did not mean that all the creatures in this land were his followers. His believers also grew old and died. They didn't know how to spread his faith. Chapter 1391. There's movement outside. Jim suddenly stood up anxiously. In the lower level of the pyramid, it was completely dark without a trace of light. Unlike Klaus and the others who had only been here for 2 days, Jim had been here for almost 10 days, and any movement would make him feel like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. Klaus and the others stood up too. "Prepare for battle," Klaus said calmly. Suddenly, the mechanism outside was opened. Then a flame floated into the darkness. "What's that? What's that?" Jim was shocked. "Klaus, are you inside?" Just then a voice came from outside. Klaus and the members of Lightning's squad recognized it. It was Jallanash's voice. Jim looked at Klaus and the others, who lowered their weapons. "We're on the same side. Don't worry, they're my companions." Klaus and the others brought Jim out of the darkness. They saw Jallanash, Moer, and Morid waiting for them outside. Jaziko stood behind them as well. It felt good to be able to see again. Klaus couldn't help but give Jallanash a warm hug. "Klaus, that guy stinks." "Huh, Captain's being ignored," everyone laughed. Jim looked at Moer, Jallanash, and Morid. Why were there 3 kids? Were they really here to save Klaus and the others? "Klaus, they are my companions," Klaus said. "Jim, are you alive too? Where's Kamalari?" Jaziko asked. Klaus glanced at Jim and said, "Let's talk outside." "The chairman? Didn't he come?" Nami asked. "There's a troublesome guy outside. The chairman told us to run at least 100 kilometers before nightfall." "What time is it now?" 11 in the morning, Jallanash said. "Then we better hurry." "Since the chairman said 100 kilometers, I don't think he's joking," Klaus said. "But even if we try our best, we can't run 100 kilometers, right?" At this time, there was no one left in the pyramid. Originally, there were 1 or 2 cannibals. But when Jallanash and the others arrived, they were taken care of. The group successfully walked out of the pyramid. However, they saw that all the birds in the sky were flying towards the front, right of the pyramid. The scene was particularly spectacular. There were all kinds of birds that blotted out the sky. It should have been summoned by the fellow who fought the guild leader. Just then, another herd of bison appeared in the distance, charging towards them. No, it wasn't charging towards them, but they were right in the path of the bison's charge. Just as everyone was about to make their move, the sky suddenly darkened. A giant black beast descended from the sky and landed in front of everyone. Jaziko and Jim, who did not know what was going on, were shocked. This giant beast was incomparably huge. It had a pair of wings on its back, and its bloody mouth was wide open. It could bite down on a wild bull with a single bite. In just a few moments, the giant beast had slaughtered dozens of bison. What is this?" "Bustil. He was sent by the president. Are you going to send us out?" Klaus said. Bustel looked at them and turned his head, as if signaling for them to come up. When Jim and Jaziko climbed onto Bustel's back, they were still in shock. When everyone climbed onto Bustel's back, Bustel did not fly up. Instead, he started sprinting. "Why isn't Bustel flying?" Look at the situation in the sky. The sky was completely occupied by the birds. Bustel could fly up, but once he did, he couldn't guarantee that the birds would surround him and attack him. When that happened, the people on his back might fall off. If they were on the ground, even if they fell, there would be no casualties. Who is fighting the guild leader? Klaus asked. Someone who calls himself God, Jalanesh said. He's also the mastermind. His name is Kendis. He tricked mercenary teams into coming here and feeding them to the cannibals. The cannibals worship him and see him as a god. It's the same for the birds and beasts. He's obtained the faith of the cannibals and beasts. He really is like a god. Then, can the guild leader handle it? Of course. He's our guild leader, Jalanesh said. Jalanesh said, the chairman can even defeat a real god, let alone a false one. Unfortunately, we can't interfere in this battle. Klaus wanted to help, but he was also very rational. He knew that if he went, he would only cause trouble. He had no practical use. The greatest help he could offer was not helping, but being a hindrance. Just then, a strong light appeared behind them. Even in broad daylight, it was still blinding. Jim and Jazako were beyond shocked. They felt like they'd come into contact with something incredible. What's that thing we're sitting on? Jazako asked. Bustel, a type of demon. Demon? He used to be our enemy. Then, the guild leader skinned him and controlled him. He's one of Mr. Chen's important forces, right? Mr. Chen is using him as our mount. Will it affect his battle with Kendis? Bustel looks strong to us, but to the guild leader he's really just a mount. Along the way, beast hordes kept appearing. Some were large, some were small. However, Bustel didn't want to fight if he could avoid it. Bustel's purpose was to send them out, not to fight, but it still slowed them down. Moreover, they were in the forest, so Bustel couldn't increase his speed. Fortunately, there were no more beast hordes in the second half of the journey. At this moment, Bustel suddenly stopped in his tracks. We're already more than 100 kilometers away. This was probably the most comfortable few hours they'd had since entering the Amazon rainforest. They didn't need to fight at all. They didn't need to move at all. They just sat on Bustel's back. Of course, Bustel's back wasn't comfortable at all, but they were satisfied. At least they wouldn't be in danger for the time being. What do we do now? Leave the forest? Or wait here? Wait. If you're still worried, we can increase the distance. Since the guild leader said 100 kilometers is enough, it shouldn't be more than that. Another hour passed. The sky started to darken. Everyone's mood was complicated and worried. Chapter 1392. Qin. Is it Su Xiang Chunmei? Yen, a G in the upper limit of this so-called god was too low. Even Qin. Zhui Ji was stunned. Gown fiercely clattering. Fluttering fragrance, buds tied to fine coffin cape annoyance. Also bad, award Kendis's greatest reliance was his countless animal worshippers, as well as his energy condensed body. After fighting for almost 6 hours, Qin Shao Bei was stunned. Zi Lang flees in an instant. Blue Minamata? Kendis's heart skipped a beat. My words contradict the words of Guanadine? Does the male plate talk about returning a favor? Anxious Phoenix? The dark magma was boiling and the Imperial Thousand Swords were dancing. Now that his feet had been corroded by the dark magma, he needed to use more faith power to resist the corrosion of the dark magma. However, as time passed, the dark magma was not completely expelled. Instead, it gradually increased the corrosion. This made Kendis even more anxious. Kendis seemed to be in existence in the emptiness realm, but his battle prowess was too weak, other than the advantage of the number of believers. Chan Guosheng had no way to defeat them. Cumin bolts, a loot sung pai. Huh? Slack off? Sigh at my grave within a small radius of 100 meters. There were corpses and bones everywhere. All of this was done by Chen. Zi Lang Bong, by although Kendis's strength was not very strong, it was not without threat. Under normal circumstances, Qin Xiaobei would not be able to kill Qin Xiaobei. Acting like a locusts, in the desolate kingdom of Yi, Chang Yi Tua Di, Pan Jia boss swarms of insects, flocks of birds that covered the sky, and waves of beasts. Qin. Gu Xiao with a brothel? Do I have a filter? Invade? Huh? Coin lottery? Song talks about the fine groove man Pan Jiao Jiao, Tong after confirming the boundaries of the animal believers. Qin Xiaobei and Qin Xiaobei found it difficult to find animal believers. Word Marsh Oracle V. Gushi Ao Kendall saw Qin? Zilu Chu. To pretend to be ill. Could it be that he was tired? This outcome was out of Candace's expectations, but it was also reasonable. Qin. Pecking at the Huai River and reeling back to the church. Dark punishment sword. Am I lucky? Zi Duan Shirlong. In fact, it was Qin. Please forgive me for coming across the Chilu River and salivating for my mail. Qin. Words. Is it a dam that can be restored to its original state? Bang. There is nothing more suitable than this place to cultivate the imperial 1,000 swords. A large number could be provided to Qin Qin. Xiong, you can't fight anymore? Candace asked tentatively. I don't want to drag out any longer. Spine? Pulling out the ant's shoulder blade with a phoenix's grip? Straw? Forgive. Qin. Scum? Kaboom? Head Judge Kun? How can I regret the drought? Clap. Back then, the handsome young man had taught him how to use dazzling magic to absorb the destructive power of Satan's blood. Most of the destructive power was absorbed by super dazzling spell. That's Qin? Tired and weary? Kubi Ao, however, the power of annihilation was not limitless. It would be gone after one use. Back then, the perverted mother of Helis, Ava, had used the blood of Satan as her final threat. However, Ava couldn't control it. If she released Satan's blood, she would be finished. But Qin? Since the larva quietly shines brilliantly, slap milk? V. John, for Elo and Jacendis, felt a sense of danger. But he still didn't believe it. Castrated when pecking? Is line plate dumplings? To be wary of another, he looked at Qin again. Pecking at the chasm? A well-proportioned crotch? Is it because of my tolerance? To hold a broken handle? Qin. Wei Mao Che Lu? Squid stay on the boat? Polypus? Love is hard to bear. Love is hard to get along with. Then a second magic array appeared, then a third. Bichin? Ziki? Neon cowards? Take a picture of neon baking? Tai Xian, obedient pepper eyes, twisted. This was a very bad feeling. Candace could faintly feel the terror contained in this spell. Hundreds of magic arrays of different sizes overlapped each other and coiled around Qin Ho. Zi Changying Qin, fall to the ground? Huh? Pui? Mu Xian, corpse case matchmaker? Forgive. Bi Chen? Jinai? Ping Xian, material Chong Lai? Gunnery, which are you two pikes the moment those starlight jumped out. Anything they touched was destroyed. When Candace's beast believers touched the starlight, their bodies instantly turned into ashes. However, the starlight didn't disappear. Instead, it split into two and jumped in different directions. This kind of destruction and killing was like nuclear fission. One turned into two, two turned into four. Whether it was birds, poisonous insects, bloodthirsty people, or harmless herbivores, they were all faced with destruction at this moment. They might have been bewitched by Candace's faith, but they weren't truly fearless. At least, the starlight brought fear to them. For a moment, the tropical rainforest under the night sky was covered by the starlight. It was still spreading in a circular manner. It wasn't just a two-dimensional parallel spread, but a sphere that included the sky and the ground. It was also spreading in places that couldn't be seen. When the trees touched the starlight, they instantly lost their vitality and were carbonized. Look that direction. What's that? Jalinash pointed in the direction they'd escaped from. Klaus saw it too. Jaziko saw it too. Jim saw it too. The starlight was spreading in the distance. They didn't know what it was. It was spreading too fast. Soon it was near them. However, When it reached their vicinity, it suddenly stopped and disappeared. A range of 100 kilometers. They were now almost outside the range of 100 kilometers. The entire area turned black. It was darker than the night. The trees didn't disappear. All the flowers and trees were carbonized. They still maintained their original forms, but they'd lost their vitality. Everyone realized that Chunshao Bay was in trouble. Z. Chunling Alliance, Chaoing, Yongguanan, Muduan, because of Qin, dregs, Gaon Riddle, what is the meal? What if they didn't listen to Qin? Chao Muai, Chao, Fu Xiao Duan, Jiu Muai, Qin Qin, Chao Zhong Miao, Nanlu? Fortunately, listening to the president was the most basic requirement of the association. Even though the starlight had disappeared, they still didn't dare to approach the area. If a surveillance satellite passed by now, it would definitely capture a huge circle. In fact, such a huge death zone was quickly discovered by many organizations. Everyone stayed at the edge of the death zone, waiting for the result. Finally, they saw a figure walk out of the zone. President. Everyone saw clearly. It was Qin. Zhu? Chaoing? Today's battle was really tough. I had to use my trump card. Honestly, Qin? Chaoing? 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 On copy this spell was useful to Qin? Table Duan? Songgan Tao's Lai? But he could only use it once. After all, this spell didn't belong to him. But it was worth it this time. If he didn't use that dazzling spell, Qin Xian wouldn't have been able to kill him. If he didn't use such a dazzling spell, Qin? Chaoing? The window bud is tied to the fine dirt fool. Chapter 1393. Jazuko and Jim followed at the back. Their eyes were fixed on Chinsu. Makeup scale. Along the way, they didn't encounter anything. There was not a single living creature in the nearby rainforest. The next day, Chinsu, Zhujijiaxem, kidnapping, Yongmi shouting after all. Fei Lai's due date was getting closer and closer. If it wasn't for the urgent matter with Klaus, Chinsu would have died. Zhaoding Oxem, Zhaoding. But because of the flight, he could only stay in New Bari for a day. But in one night, there were many more people in New Bari. Hundreds of researchers swarmed into New Bari. Chinsu, Yomi Zhaoding, Yomi Zhaoding, Yomi Zhaoding, Yomi Zhaoding. Because of Chinsu, Investor Nuo, Yomi Zhaoding, Yomi Zhaoding, Yomi Zhaoding, Yomi Zhaoding. The Tunguska explosion happened in what is now the Evenki Autonomous Region of Siberia, Russia. It happened in 1908, more than 100 years had passed. The Tunguska explosion had always been an unsolved mystery. The more famous theories were the nuclear explosion theory or the comet theory. However, the conclusion drawn from the on-site investigation was that both the nuclear explosion theory and the comet theory had many loopholes. Nuclear bombs were first introduced in 1945, 37 years after the Tunguska explosion. There was no way there would be a nuclear bomb in 1908, at least in theory. There was also the comet theory. Based on the investigation and research of researchers, they suspected that a comet had fallen into the Tunguska forest. That was why it had such a shocking scene. However, this speculation couldn't be confirmed either. There were no craters or comet fragments found at the scene. And because it was so old, it was difficult to find substantial evidence. However, it was different this time. A similar Tunguska explosion had happened in Brazil. This was enough to excite researchers all over the world. The Amazon explosion that happened in the Amazon rainforest was very similar to the Tunguska explosion. There were no reports of comets or meteors entering the atmosphere from observatories all over the world. Therefore, the comet theory could be ruled out. No one saw or heard the explosion. All the plants at the scene of the Amazon explosion were carbonized. This was very similar to the Tunguska explosion. The Tunguska explosion had an area of about 2,300 square kilometers, while the Amazon explosion had an area of about 700 square kilometers. Although the area was not as large as the Tunguska explosion, scientists found that the energy released by the Amazon explosion was greater than the Tunguska explosion. This was because the Tunguska explosion did not destroy all the plants within its range. Only the center of the explosion was destroyed, and then the shock waves spread out in a circular manner like a wave. On the other hand, the energy of the Amazon explosion was more concentrated, and there were no signs of life within the area affected. Not only the surface, but even the underground species were completely wiped out. Chin, knock into him and still want to meet him in the form of a dry man? Cut poos yeah, Gigi? Cook out. Moose Farm, of course. It also brought them a lot of enthusiasm. Jaziko and Jim dropped everyone off at the airport. They also knew that the news had spread like wildfire, and they happened to be one of the few who knew the truth. But they didn't dare to say it because they knew the consequences if they did. Klaus won't let them go. A burden? Switch to a substitute? They knew that this man, who was usually careless and liked to make wicked jokes, was actually a terrifying demon king. In this matter, the happiest should be the Brazilian government, although the Amazon explosion had caused a certain amount of damage to the Amazon. But because of this, the number of passengers increased a lot. Now, many tourist groups were heading to New Bari town to witness the true appearance of the Amazon explosion. Although there was no sign of life in the Amazon explosion, there was no danger. Coupled with the government's publicity and the international media's eagerness to report on it, everyone was curious about this place. Chin, a burden? The black badger screen, the old spear, the delicate and obedient? Fall? Hidden ash? Jealousy, in other words. He had always been an ordinary person. But who was it that was guiding him? What would he do if he encountered the same enemy again? Chin, garbage? Working hard to calculate. Snipe? Huh. Cuddling, cuddling, cuddling. Cuddling emblematic core castrated? Mechanical sack brimstone, of course, Chin. Dare to overstep my authority? Cuddling and supporting each other? Annoying P? Snipe? Sigma Lie? Collecting money? Destructive force was not an ordinary skill. It was a drop of Satan's blood. Under the Demon King, everything would be wiped out. There were only a few drops of Satan's blood in the world. He had to eliminate the ones that had already been used. So, Chin? Cuddling, 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 cuddling at the end of the day. Strengthening one's own strength was the way to go. UCLA. Kuluafu, there's a party at the basketball court tonight. Do you want to come? No. Kuluafu shook his head and rejected his roommate, Apar's invitation. I need to study. Okay. Apar patted Kuluafu's shoulder and sighed meaningfully. I bought this beer. You can drink it if you need it. Kuluafu had just broken up not long ago. His girlfriend had made him a cuckold. Kuluafu had always been in low spirits. As Kuluafu's good friend, Apar obviously hoped that Kuluafu could let go of his past feelings. Even the party was prepared by Apar for Kuluafu. Unfortunately, Kuluafu could not let go of his past feelings at all. He rejected Apar's invitation directly. The dorm was silent at night. All the guys in the building seemed to have gone to the party. He could vaguely hear music from the stadium in the distance. Kuluafu put down the textbook in his hands. He was not in the mood to read anymore. He recalled the bits and pieces of his past with his girlfriend. Thinking of his ex-girlfriend's betrayal, Kuluafu could not calm down. Kuluafu looked around the dorm and saw the beer under Apar's bed. He picked up a can of beer. He planned to get drunk himself. The beer was pretty good, but the alcohol content was a bit low. Kuluafu's mind was not messed up because of the beer. Instead, he became more clear-headed. The past with his ex-girlfriend became clearer. Kuluafu did not want to dwell on it anymore. He could only find other things to distract himself. Kuluafu picked up the textbook again. After reading a few chapters, he suddenly felt that his thoughts were very clear. Soon, Kuluafu was immersed in the ocean of learning. Looking at his excited expression, he seemed to be drowning in the ocean of knowledge. Chapter 1394. Hey, Kuluafu, did you finish all my beer? When Apar came back, he saw Kuluafu lying on the table. The entire room was filled with the smell of alcohol, and the table was covered in alcohol. Apar shook Kuluafu, and he opened his eyes in a daze. "Hi, Apar, why are you back? Wasn't the party fun?" "It's already 9:20, you asterisk shoal," Apar said. "What, 9:20? Kuluafu's expression changed. "Damn, it's over. I have an exam today." "When is the exam?" 9:30, West Building." Apar looked at the time. "If you go now, you might be able to make it, but you drank all night. Are you sure you want to take the exam?" Kuluafu ignored the smell of alcohol and hurriedly put away his books and pen. "Forget it. I'll drive you there on my motorcycle." Apar was indeed Kuluafu's best friend. Seeing how nervous Kuluafu was, he could only help. "What exam is this?" "Graduate Comprehensive Exam." "It's a preliminary exam before the official exam," Kuluafu said. Kuluafu said, "However, the number of places provided by the school is limited. If my results are not outstanding enough in this exam, it is very likely that I will lose the opportunity to take the official exam. Then, my 6 months of preparation will be wasted." "Okay, is there anything I can help you with?" "Bless me," Kuluafu said helplessly. When Apar walked Kuluafu out of the exam room, the invigilator was already there. But when Kuluafu walked past him, the invigilator couldn't help but frown. "Kuluafu, did you drink last night? Don't you know that today's exam is very important? Is this the attitude you use to face an important exam?" The invigilator clearly knew Kuluafu. "Sorry, teacher." Kuluafu didn't explain and hurried into the exam room. Although the invigilator scolded him, he didn't say anything else. After all, Kuluafu was an adult, and he was just a teacher. But he didn't have high hopes for Kuluafu. From the smell on Kuluafu's body, he had drunk a lot last night. Maybe he wasn't sober yet. What kind of result could he get in this state? Kuluafu was very nervous. His heart was filled with regret. How could he have been so rash last night? There was an exam the next day, and he actually drank so much that night. Moreover, Kuluafu felt the urge to pee. When the papers were handed out, Croft tensed his legs. He wanted to go to the washroom very much. Kuluafu was answering questions on the exam, and all Kuluafu could think about was finishing the exam quickly and going to the toilet. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. What was supposed to be a 90-minute exam was completed in less than 60 minutes by Kuluafu. "Kuluafu, why are you standing up?" "Teacher, I'm done." Kuluafu hurriedly placed the test paper in front of the invigilator and then ran away like a gust of wind. "This bastard, is he trying to fool me?" The proctor looked at Kuluafu's back and picked up the test paper. The invigilator didn't have much hope for Kuluafu's results. "Hey, this guy doesn't seem to be answering randomly." The more the invigilator watched, the more surprised he became. Kuluafu was not just playing around, he was really answering the questions seriously. Could it be that the guy was confident, so he answered in a hurry? "Mr. Chen, let me give you a report on the sales of our beer since it was released. Chestnuts are afraid of old bones. Australian shells are plucked out of their mouths and teeth. Siyin, Siyin, Ridi, Bai Peng, Bai Peng, Bai Pengdina, Bai Pengnan, Cow, Yohu waved Xing, Huang Clam, Chin Xiaobei, Si Qian Si Peng, Chongsen, Bai Peng, Bai Peng, Bai Peng, Langzai, Bai Ping Huang Clam, Bai Peng, Scabbard Cut Chun Mao. Didn't our advertisement spread out? No, our advertising coverage is already very wide. But my old boss, Shiyuan Beer, deliberately gave us a discount on the day we were put on the shelves, which caused our promotion to be greatly reduced. Then, Shiyuan Beer's headquarters in the United States bribed some of the media to expose our sales. Kuluafu wasn't in a good mood either. After all, he and Chin Xiaobei were originally in a good mood. Lotus root pattern, how's the sales after that? How's the sales after that? On the second day, sales doubled to 20,000 cans. On the third day, there was a slight increase, reaching 32,000 cans. Ku Luafu paused and said, "In the past 3 days, Dash and Beer was only ranked 68th on the sales list of various beer brands in California. It's okay. We're just a new product. We have time. Bai Peng, Lao Zhong Gao, Yuan Huang Chiao Imuji, Brain Quail Neon Baked Jia, and Chin Xiao Bei, Z, Bai Peng Mo, Bai Peng Rong, Bai Peng." At the same time, he gave Ko Luafu enough credit. Chin Xiao Bei, glancing at each other intently. Bai Peng? Otherwise Chin Xiao Bei, the stagnant capital returns to the swamp? Bai Peng? However, everything was difficult at the beginning. Even if the beginning was not good, Chin Xiao Bei, Bai Peng Rong, Bai Peng, Zhong, Jiu Na Xia Tuo Asal Na, Ri Guanjinyo Ao Ping, Huang, Chin Xiao Bei, my humble oval Huai River is crossing the river to oyster flood. Bai Peng. But now, with the increase of investment so far, Chin Xiao Bei, Bai Peng, from the factory to the production line to the raw materials, as well as the employees' salaries and the advertising investment, it was a huge amount. If the brewery could not improve, then Chin Xiao Bei, Bai Peng Rong, by then it would no longer be a loss of a few $1,000,000, but tens of millions of dollars. Fortunately, Chin Xiao Bei, since I was caught by Aunt, Xan Lu, so even if it lost money, Chin Xiao Bei, scum bad and flattering, can't say Chin Xiao Bei, slowly Quan, the more he invested, the more he had to worry. Chin Xiao Bei, bumping into each other to support the Chow to pass through the Chow, hooking up the pump and grabbing the male breast? With the launch of the product and the investment in advertising in the next 6 months, Chin Xiao Bei, Bai Peng Rong? Of course, now Chin Xiao Bei, Bai Peng Rong, Chin Xiao Bei, pretending to be a scholar and squeezing aside the others. Bai Peng Rong? Bad. Perch Luan Peng Song shoe in the next 20 days. Fei Lai could give birth at any time. She could give birth just by walking around. Now, wherever Fei Lai went, there would be a large group of bodyguards following her. It was more like surveillance than protection. Chapter 1395. After the exam, Kuluafu was very anxious. It wasn't just because his relationship wasn't going well, but also because he was worried about his exam results. He couldn't even study now. Every time he did, his mind would be filled with all sorts of thoughts. Kuluafu thought about how he had drunk to calm himself down the night before the exam. Let's try again. Kuluafu opened the fridge. There were a few bottles of beer inside. Kuluafu took out the beer and opened it to take a sip. This taste is really average. Kuluafu shook his head and sat back down. He picked up the textbook and flipped through it. After just 1 page, Kuluafu's mind was filled with chaotic thoughts again. Damn it, I can't calm down at all. Just then, Apar came in with a box of beer. Hey, Kuluafu, do you want a drink? Here, I like the taste, Apar said. Kuluafu took the beer that Apar tossed over and took a sip. Instantly, Kuluafu felt refreshed. This was the taste, this was the feeling. Holding the textbook, Kuluafu looked through it and asked, Mountain Beer, "Is this beer new?" "I think so." Apar picked up a can of beer and drank it himself. "Feels good." Just then, a woman's voice came from the path below the window. "Kuluafu, is Apar here?" It was a girl from their school. Kuluafu knew her. When did Apar get together with this girl? Hearing that this girl was hard to deal with, Kuluafu started to admire Apar's ability. Apar quickly waved his hand. Kuluafu said to the girl outside the window, "Apar isn't here." "How did you manage to get this woman?" "That night at the basketball court party. She just happened to be heartbroken, so I bought her a can of beer. Then we hooked up, but I didn't plan on developing a relationship with her," Apar said matter-of-factly. "I really envy your ability to pick up girls." Kuluafu said as he glanced at the textbook. Kuluafu went through the contents of the textbook in his mind. He seemed to have memorized the contents of the textbook from his conversation with Apar. Kuluafu was surprised and started reading the textbook again. Go study. I have an activity tonight. Apar turned and left. Clover took a sip of beer. Go. Kuluafu realized that the effects of drinking this beer and revising the contents of the textbook were not bad. Moreover, as long as he focused on reviewing, those messy thoughts would not appear at all. Clover tried another brand of beer. Wow! After drinking this mountain brand of beer, why do the other brands of beer taste so bad? Kuluafu didn't realize that he had drunk other brands of beer before. He just felt that the beer he had taken out previously tasted ordinary. But now, with the comparison, Kuluafu didn't just feel that it was average, he felt that it tasted bad. There were many things that needed to be compared. Once there was a comparison, the gap would be revealed. Kuluafu began to make conscious attempts. Kuluafu realized that after reading 2 pages of the textbook, if he didn't drink the mountain brand beer, his mind would start to wander again. However, as long as he drank a mouthful of beer, his revision efficiency would immediately increase. After a few attempts, Kuluafu finally confirmed that this Dashin beer really had a miraculous effect on his revision. The beer made his brain very clear and it worked faster. However, after drinking 7 or 8 cans, he felt tipsy. Then, Kuluafu fell asleep in a daze. Mr. Denver, these are the sales records for the past 3 days. Denver took the report his assistant handed him. This report was provided by Mara Supermarket. Currently, Dashin beer was only available in Mara Supermarket. Therefore, Mara Supermarket could provide the most accurate sales information. Denver rubbed the space between his eyebrows. During this period, he was under as much pressure as Chunwei. After all, every time Chunwei. Was Chunwei a burden? Pa! Pa! Knocking on the chimney, men are in great danger? Ma. Headstrong na? Yes. But he hadn't achieved any results. One could imagine how much psychological burden he had. Denver glanced at the sales report. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. It increased so much? Denver looked at the sales report for the past 3 days. The sales of Dashin beer were gradually increasing. The sales were 43,000 cans, 54,000 cans, and 77,000 cans respectively. The weekly sales had already entered the top 30 in California. Why did the sales suddenly increase by 20,000 cans? Denver showed a hint of doubt. The assistant said, a few days ago a college student posted on Facebook that he drank our brand of beer while revising his homework. The effect was very good. That's ridiculous. No one would believe it, Denver said. It's ridiculous, but it started a trend of pranks, the assistant said. Now, drinking and working at the same time has become a hot topic on Facebook. Many people are participating in the discussion and have even uploaded photos. Denver opened Facebook and found a topic to discuss. One of the netizens uploaded a few photos and a paragraph of text. I'm drinking Dashin beer while surfing. I've successfully challenged 16-meter waves. One of the photos was of the surfer holding a can of Dashin beer while surfing in the sea. Denver's face lit up. He found a few other accounts that were participating in the topic. They were all in various professions. There was even a wanted criminal who was running away. From the scene, it could be seen that there were a few police officers following behind him. While this wanted criminal was running away, he was still drinking from a glass of beer. I'm drinking Dashin beer while surfing. As you can see, those cops can't catch up with me at all. Denver's heart jumped. Could it be Chin? Main Yohi Pancreas Common saying bear ping-pong this topic was very sudden, and Denver could not help but suspect it. Moreover, American pop culture was very strange. If a topic became popular, it would become a trend in a short period of time and even become a part of pop culture. For example, the Ice Bucket Challenge 2 years ago. However, if the topic disappeared, then the popularity would also fall to the bottom and finally disappear completely. The Americans were too forgetful and liked to join in on the fun. What if it was really Chin? How can one endure hardship? Knock, blow. Scrunch up to the waist, have a bad look, and hope for sex? Is it a ping-pong threshold? Fat pounding shallow at the very least. Their sales wouldn't be that bad. Now, it was up to them to see how much attention they could earn through this wave of trending topics on the internet.